Chapter 26-25, Bombardment. Boom. The pair of golden giant palms finally folded together completely. Yuan Lei was naturally bearing unprecedented pressure situated in that void in which the horrifying energy was violently crushing. The golden divine power gradually subsided after a while, and the void returned to its original calmness bit by bit. Yuan Lei was still standing in that void after matters died down, but his body was covered with blood. Cracks began to appear on the 3 kilometers tall tree behind him along with his greatly decreased aura. However, an expert who practiced vitality law had the incredible rejuvenating ability. His capability would return in an extremely short time so long the giant tree behind him still stands. Still kicking? Jian Wushuang's frosty eyes stared at Yuan Lei. Yuan Lei raised his head and looked at him with a strange smile on his lips. Jian Yi, I truly have underestimated you. You're merely an Earth ultimate god who not only possesses great battle strength but also endless techniques. I've lost this battle, but don't you get cocky now. If my guess is right, the reason you could perform so many techniques is because of the treasures on you, especially the one that could perform world transformation. Hee, a treasure of such caliber isn't something an Earth ultimate god like you could possess. You'd probably have a lot of visitors at your doorstep very soon if I spread the word about you possessing such treasures. Do you really think you have the chance to do that? Jian Wushuang's voice was as cold as his gaze. Yuan Lei's expression changed and quickly raised his head in the next moment as he noticed something. His eyes were opened wide upon raising his head. Extremely powerful energy that previously existed in the world inside the floating scroll painting began to descend from above him. A gigantic palm print began to descend from within the painting's world. That palm print was the Divine Emperor Seal, a technique Jian Wushuang acquired after fusing the first 3 forms of the 9 provinces seal. It was also Jian Wushuang's most powerful offensive move. That's... Yuan Lei's eyes were opened so round and wide in disbelief. He was situated right under the gigantic palm print and could clearly feel that the palm print's energy could even destroy heaven and earth. That energy was a lot stronger than the pair of gigantic golden folding palms unleashed by Jian Wushuang, which had severely injured him. It was so much stronger. He had enough confidence to protect himself from the pair of golden folding palms. However, the descending giant palm print simply made him feel a touch of helplessness. You actually have a technique that's stronger than the one before? Yuan Lei gave a deadly stare at Jian Wushuang as though looking at a monster. He truly was a monster. An Earth ultimate god who could perform those techniques time and again was enough to shock him to the core. He thought Jian Wushuang's previous move that severely injured him was already his strongest move. Jian Wushuang unexpectedly had something even more to offer. It was simply unbelievable. The gradually descending giant palm print caused Yuan Lei to even feel that all hope was lost. He tried his best to project his divine power, so was the giant tree behind him, working hard to block the gigantic palm print. However, the end was destruction. The gigantic palm print destroyed everything in its way and covered Yuan Lei's divine body in the blink of an eye. No! Yuan Lei gave out one final hysterical cry before being completely covered by the palm print. Boom boom boom. Infinite divine power rolled violently and shook heaven and earth. After a long while, the surroundings finally calmed and quieted down along with the gradually dispersing gigantic palm print and overwhelming divine power. Jian Wushuang slowly waved his hand as the golden prison and golden god shadow behind him disappeared. The sword principal world around him changed as well and reverted the area back to its original wasteland. On the other hand, the scroll painting world had just rewrapped itself back and turned into a beam of light before returning to Jian Wushuang's body. Jian Wushuang then kept the 9 infernal crimson divine swords inside his interspatial ring. Everything finally died down. Jian Wushuang exhaled quietly and walked forward to the void that was crushed by the Divine Emperor Seal. There was nothing left in the void, not even a corpse. Yuan Lei's body was completely grounded into microparticles by the Divine Emperor Seal. The only items left were Yuan Lei's interspatial ring and treasure that he had with him, which Jian Wushuang tried his best to keep intact. A true heaven ultimate god, one that deeply understands vitality law and fully equipped with extremely potent rejuvenating skill, has been killed by me. A strange light shone through Jian Wushuang's eyes as he felt a touch of excitement. Heaven Ultimate Gods was someone way above Earth Ultimate Gods. A regular Earth Ultimate God, even a peak Earth Ultimate God, almost had no capabilities to fight back against a Heaven Ultimate God. Even though his cultivation level was only at peak Ultimate God, which was not even an Earth Ultimate God yet, he managed to slay a Heaven Ultimate God in the end. Furthermore, it was a respectable duel with a head-on bombardment. It was truly a bombardment. He was purely relying on many hidden maneuvers, the stately painting, and a few secret techniques. He had to suppress Yuan Lei before finally using Divine God of Punishment's Divine Destruction and the 9 Provinces Seal's Divine Emperor Seal to bombard him till death. It would be enough to scare many to death if word of the battle had gotten out. The matter remains that he had truly achieved it. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath as the excitement gradually calmed down and his face turned serious again. Although I've killed Yuan Lei head-on, the reason I could kill him is because of my treasures, secret maneuvers, and hidden techniques. My true capabilities are still a far cry from Yuan Lei's without them. Jian Wushuang told himself while reflecting and summarizing the battle. Although Yuan Lei was a Heaven Ultimate God, he's average at best and isn't considered among the stronger ones if I'm not mistaken. He only had rather strong physical defenses, though his techniques were very normal, especially when it comes to offensive maneuvers. If I didn't run into him but a Heaven Ultimate God who's very good at offensive, I'm afraid I won't be in such an advantageous position. At the end of the day, it's really because of my very low cultivation level. My understanding of various laws and sword principles aren't too far from most Heaven Ultimate Gods, but my too low level caused my base divine power being too far behind. I rely purely on secret techniques to fill in the lack of divine power. Chapter 26:26. Keeping low-key. Jian Wushuang could not do anything about his cultivation level. His cultivation time was really too short and spanning only a few decades after all. It was already an incredible phenomenon for many to be able to reach the level of peak Ultimate God in such a short time. I need enough divine elixir pill to increase my cultivation level. Yuan Lei was a golden chief from the star-picking pavilion and should have quite valuable items in his interspatial ring. I wonder if there are divine elixir pills among them. Jian Wushuang immediately investigated the interspatial ring that Yuan Lei left behind with a glimmer of hope. Yuan Lei himself was an authentic Heaven Ultimate God and also a golden chief in star-picking pavilion. His assets indeed did not disappoint Jian Wushuang and were faithful to his identity. Merely looking at primordial stones were already 30 million pieces of them. In addition, according to Jian Wushuang's estimation, the various types of cultivation resources had even exceeded the value of those primordial stones. Other than that, Yuan Lei possessed quite a fair bit of treasures as well. There were a dozen heavenly treasures that could help offensive skills cultivation. He even had 2 sets of defensive armor despite being only at the ordinary level heavenly treasures. Unfortunately, there were no unique items like mystical weapons. Not only did Yuan Lei have the divine elixir pill that Jian Wushuang was looking for in his interspatial ring, but there were 3 of them. Adding on the one that I have and those 3 divine elixir pills, I have 4 pills in total. It'll help me make quite a bit of progress if I cultivated using all of them, but it'll still be quite a distance away from becoming an Earth Ultimate God, thought Jian Wushuang. He had previously estimated that he would need around 20 divine elixir pills for him to make a breakthrough to primary level Earth Ultimate God from peak Ultimate God. 4 pills were only 1/5 of that number. What's this? Jian Wushuang was curious when he found a green-colored jade bottle. The reason that bottle caught his attention was because of the vital energy being emitted from it. He was even more surprised upon realizing he had never seen the material type used to make that jade bottle. There's such strong vital energy coming out from that jade bottle's content. Jian Wushuang immediately removed the cork and extended his soul power into it and immediately saw the drop of liquid within. The green liquid looked like dews on a flower or grass that could be found during the early mornings, but with a darker color shade. Moreover, Jian Wushuang felt a shock on his body and mind as soon as he saw the green liquid which caused a grand sight to rise around him. That one drop of liquid contained such immense vital energy that even shocked him greatly. Although I don't know what this is, the content in this unique bottle carries such strong vital energy only means that it's no ordinary item. Should I find a chance in the future and get someone to appraise it? Said Jian Wushuang. No one else in Danyang Holy Domain was more qualified to appraise treasures than Star-Picking Pavilion, not even in the surrounding 9 realms of Golden Crow. Every chief in Star-Picking Pavilion had an extremely vast knowledge about treasures as they even specially trained several appraisers. Many extremely rare treasures, including those that had completely disappeared from the 9 realms of Golden Crow, could be identified by the Star-Picking Pavilion. For example, the green liquid could easily be taken to Star-Picking Pavilion for an appraisal so long he was willing to spend some money. He would be able to know about the history and function of that green liquid. However, Jian Wushuang had just killed a golden chief from Star-Picking Pavilion and acquired the green liquid from him. He did not dare go to Star-Picking Pavilion under such circumstances. I'll head home first. I came out just for the auction but ended up studying the stately painting and transmigration sword formation after the auction. It's been 5 years since I've left. I wonder how Northern Darkstar Territory is doing under Shiner and Commander Tsong Heng's management. Jian Wushuang smiled and very soon left the place for Northern Darkstar Territory. A few men appeared on that very piece of land which had already turned into ruins only a day after Jian Wushuang left. The purple-robed man leading the group said with a cold voice, "Someone sensed a humongous fluctuation of divine power in this area. It seems like a big fight really took place here with both sides seems to have incredible capabilities based on the marks left on the battlefield, most probably an epic battle at the Heaven Ultimate God scale. On top of that, even though it's been a moment, the battlefield is still filled with a thick vital energy. It's probably left behind by Yuan Lei who studies the vitality law." The purple-robed man was the Star-Picking Pavilion's supervisor. As for the 3 men following him, 2 of them were Golden Chief while the other one was the Black Chief who received Jian Wushuang. "Are you sure Yuan Lei was going after the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord and not someone else?" The purple supervisor looked at the Black Chief. "Positive." The Black Chief nodded solemnly. Master Yuan Lei had already spotted the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord early on in the auction, but for some reason did not take action. The Territorial Lord came once again at that time to purchase 9 Infernal Crimson Divine Swords before leaving. We completely lost contact with Master Yuan Lei soon after with him not even replying to our messages. The purple-robed supervisor squinted as he knew the reason why Yuan Lei did not take action. It was because Yuan Lei and the 2 Golden Chiefs were receiving orders from Senior Meng and he naturally could not walk away. Yuan Lei's probably dead since he fought against someone here and we no longer heard from him thereafter. The Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord is only a high-level Earth Ultimate God. Even though he obtained Sword Lord Tong Xin's Transmigration Sword formation, it'll be impossible for him to kill Yuan Lei. "There has to be someone else who killed him," said the purple-robed supervisor. However, all the experts had left since the auction was over according to our intelligence. There are currently only a limited number of Heaven Ultimate Gods in Narcissus territory other than us and these Heaven Ultimate Gods having no reason nor the opportunity to kill Yuan Lei, said one of the Golden Chiefs. "Let's just stop here and don't investigate further regardless of who did it," said the purple supervisor immediately. "Don't investigate further?" The 2 Golden Chiefs were slightly surprised. A Star-Picking Pavilion Golden Chief dying was a big deal and yet the supervisor had no intentions to investigate further? This Yuan Lei was looking for trouble anyway. He immediately followed the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord as soon as he stepped out of Star-Picking Pavilion. Although they may have a minor private grudge, he still defied our rules and we have nothing much to say now with him being killed. Furthermore, it'll defile our reputation if word about this matter goes around, so we'd better keep this matter low-key. Chapter 26-27, Blood Gem. We can covertly investigate Yuan Lei's death, but do keep it that way. Other than that, we can also keep an eye on the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. Although he doesn't have the capabilities to kill Yuan Lei, He probably has something to do with his death after all, said the purple supervisor. Aye. The two golden chiefs behind immediately nodded. They left very soon. Northern Dark Star territory. Jian Wushuang exited through a wormhole with a flash. I've returned. He exhaled and began gliding towards his territorial lord residence. Jian Wushuang passed by the official army barracks along the way. He suddenly paused as he glided above the barracks. How come there are only so few of them? Jian Wushuang frowned while overlooking the barracks below. There were 10 battalions in the official army, with each battalion consisting of 1,000 strong. There should have been a total of 10,000 men. However, as Jian Wushuang's soul power expanded, he could sense there were only 1,000 men in the barracks, which constituted only one battalion. This was the official army barracks, which would normally still have a large number of soldiers holding their positions in case something happens, even when they received a big mission. Furthermore, there should have been 3 or 4 battalions permanently in the barracks, but there was only a single battalion at that moment. Did something happen? Jian Wushuang wondered before increasing his speed toward the territorial lord residence. Jian Wushuang had already descended in a manner and noticed that the residence did not change much. Jian Wushuang called out, "Shiner? Master, you're back?" Xiao Tiexin saw Jian Wushuang and smiled in surprise. I just returned and I realized there was only one battalion left when I passed by the official army barracks. What's going on? Did something happen? Jian Wushuang asked. Xiao Tiexin nodded and said, something indeed happened. A blood gem mineral vein was discovered in the Starfire Wilderness within our territory a year ago. Commander Zhang Heng immediately brought 2 battalions over when he received the news, but who knew they'd find that someone has already taken over the mineral vein upon their arrival? Taken over? Jian Wushuang was shocked. The official army had the strength to take over everything in northern Dark Star territory. Who had the nerves to rob them of the mineral vein? It's our territory's direct neighbor, Green Flame Star territory. Moreover, Starfire Wilderness is coincidentally located at the border between northern Dark Star territory and Green Flame Star territory. Their territorial lord received the news faster than us and sent their official army ahead of us the very moment news about the blood gem mineral vein began spreading. The mineral vein had already been taken over by the Green Flame Star territory's official army by the time Commander Zhang Heng arrived with his men. Commander Zhang Heng naturally was not ready to give up, so he argued with them and a fight consequently broke out. The 2 official armies were similar in battle strength, but the Green Flame territorial lord later took matters into his own hands. He's the strongest territorial lord among those other territories around us. A peak Earth ultimate god. Commander Zhang Heng, of course, fell into an absolute disadvantage with him joining the battle. Commander Zhang Heng later mobilized 9 battalions over out of necessity, and we can finally fight against the Green Flame territory as equals by relying on the numbers advantage. It seems that the blood gem mineral vein is currently being split 50-50 between northern Dark Star territory and Green Flame Star territory, with each mining their gems, said Xiao Tiexin. Is that so? Jian Wushuang looked grim. He had heard of blood gem being a very high-leveled instrument cultivation material. The blood gems were usually mined to cultivate heavenly treasures, with only a very limited amount used for peak earthly treasures cultivation. In normal circumstances, only 10,000 pounds of blood gems was needed to cultivate a heavenly treasure. A complete blood gem mineral vein perhaps contained more than 10,000 pounds of blood gems. Its value was naturally quite astonishing. Jian Wushuang sneered. The mineral vein is found within our territory, yet the Green Flame territorial lord has the nerves to lead his official army to our land and steal it. Hee, how dare he look down upon the northern Dark Star territorial lord? However, he knew that the Green Flame territorial lord was a peak Earth ultimate god and himself. Everyone knew about Jian Wushuang's battle strength being at most only in the high-level Earth ultimate god realm from killing Sanshou Wang before leaving northern Dark Star territory. It was only normal that the Green Flame Star territorial lord did not take him seriously. Shiner, you stay here while I make a trip to Starfire Wilderness, said Jian Wushuang. Master, be careful. The Green Flame Star territorial lord is a peak Earth ultimate god after all, reminded Xiao Tiexin. Haha, I understand. Jian Wushuang smiled, but had to disagree deep inside. Why worry about a peak Earth ultimate god when he could even head-on kill a heaven ultimate god? Starfire Wilderness was just a regular wilderness located at the edge of northern Dark Star territory. However, it was at that exact location an incredibly valuable blood gem mineral vein was discovered in the huge mountains. One that made the Green Flame Star territorial lord crossed boundaries to fight for. The mountains were humongous and the entire mineral vein was similarly also incredibly huge. The mineral vein began on both ends of the mountains which a camp had been respectively built. Several commanders from the official army were gathered together in one of the camps. Song Heng sat there and exclaimed, "It's too huge. This blood gem mineral vein is truly too huge. The mineral vein that we managed to control is only 40% of the entire thing. According to early estimation, the blood gem's extended underground that has been discovered is already more than £1 billion and could even be a lot more. Blood gems are used for cultivating heavenly treasures. In the market, their value is also truly shocking. A pound of blood gems will cost 10 primordial stones while £1 billion of the blood gem will exceed 10 billion primordial stones." Wow! The commanders around him were in disbelief. 1 million primordial stones were already considered an astronomical amount to those commanders who were only at peak ultimate god. What about 10 billion? They could not even begin to fathom the concept of it. Our strength is unfortunately limited and 40% is the most we're able to keep in control. The remaining 60% falls under the Green Flame Star Territory official army's control. Furthermore, the Green Flame Star Territorial Lord has already known the value of the mineral vein and will definitely mobilize even more personnel over from the Green Flame Star Territory. "I'm afraid that we can't even hold on to this 40% by then," said Song Heng coldly. Chapter 26-28 Territorial Lord returns. Song Heng and the others were only able to occupy 40% of the blood gem mineral vein due to their larger military size advantage. Song Heng had mobilized 9 out of 10 Northern Darkstar Territory official army battalions and formed a military formation with considerably strong combat power. On the other hand, the Green Flame Star Territory was fighting outside of his territory and was only able to mobilize 5 battalions for the battle. However, the peak earthly ultimate god Green Flame Territorial Lord managed to help his team gain an absolute advantage with his exceptional strength. However, Song Heng and the others would be at a greater disadvantage if the Green Flame Territorial Lord was able to bring in 1 or 2 more army battalions from the Green Flame Star Territory, as that would make it rather impossible for them to continue occupying 40% of the mineral vein. It's simply too much for the Green Flame Territorial Lord to not only rely on his exceptional personal strength but also bring his army into our territory to rob the mineral vein. It's unfortunate that our Territorial Lord isn't here. Otherwise, the Green Flame Territorial Lord won't dare to be so presumptuous. Not necessarily. Although our Territorial Lord is powerful, his combat prowess is only at the level of a high-level Earth Ultimate God. There's still quite a big gap between him and the Green Flame Territorial Lord. I'm afraid our Territorial Lord might have to bow down to the Green Flame Territorial Lord if the two of them meet and fight. The commanders were in a discussion and soon fell silent at the end of their discussion. Even if the military strength of the two territories were equivalent, their territorial lords indeed had different strengths. The world was a place where spoils belonged to the victors. Suddenly, "What are you guys discussing?" An indifferent voice sounded. Song Heng and the other commanders were startled. They immediately turned around to look at the source of the sound. They had not noticed a young man wearing golden robes and carrying a long sword had appeared. Territorial Lord. Song Heng was the first to react and immediately saluted respectfully. "A pleasure to meet the Territorial Lord." The other commanders saluted and felt a little apprehensive. The feeling was heightened as cold sweat beaded on them when they were reminded that they were speaking ill of their Territorial Lord just moments ago. They were worried if Jian Wushuang heard what they just said. Jian Wushuang did hear their discussion, but he could care less. "Commander Song Heng, tell me what's going on with the blood gem mineral vein at this moment?" Jian Wushuang sat down next to the table. Song Heng immediately explained the situation in great detail. 1 billion caddies? Even Jian Wushuang was shocked to hear the figures. This is just the amount of blood gems from the mineral vein we have discovered for the time being. There are still many that haven't been discovered. We currently only occupy 40% of the blood gems, whereas 60% is with the Green Flame Territorial Lord. If the number of blood gems in the entire mineral vein added up to billions, then its value will be a few tens of billion primordial stones, said Song Heng. It's a huge blood gem mineral vein? Jian Wushuang secretly smacked his tongue but kept a calm front. This mineral vein is way too valuable. Although it appears within our star territory, we can't take control of the entire mineral vein with our capabilities alone. I believe that people from Crimson Stone Fort will come forward sooner or later. Jian Wushuang knew very well that the lucrative mineral vein worth tens of billion primordial stones would be very appealing to top factions in Danyang Holy Domain. On the other hand, the Crimson Stone Fort was the official ruler of Danyang Holy Domain, with every stellar region and territorial lord being appointed and administered by them. The Crimson Stone Fort would send an expert to retrieve the high-valued mineral vein in northern Darkstar territory. Song Heng nodded in agreement. The largest winner from the mineral vein's appearance will be the Crimson Stone Fort, but they'll need miners to get the blood gems. Therefore, they'll naturally source manpower from northern Darkstar territory and entrust our official army to be responsible for monitoring the mining process until its completion. I suppose the territorial lord and official army will be able to gain a lot of benefits during that time, as Crimson Stone Fort will usually leave us some gravy when they take the meat. The current problem with the Green Flame Star territory is their actions of taking away even our last bit of gravy. Jian Wushuang cracked a faint smile as Song Heng's metaphor was very appropriate. They could only pick up the leftovers after Crimson Stone Fort had collected their share of the benefit. How could they be able to accept the Green Flame Star territory rushing in and taking a cut of their portion? Let's go and meet the Green Flame Territorial Lord, said Jian Wushuang with a smile. Song Heng did not act immediately from puzzlement. Master, the Green Flame Territorial Lord is a peak Earth ultimate god. I hear he's very powerful. I know. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. Take me to him. Song Heng stopped hesitating after noticing Jian Wushuang's confidence and immediately set off to lead the way. Jian Wushuang soon arrived at the void above the camp on the mine's other end. There were many soldiers from the Green Flame Star Territory's official army in the camp. Master, the Green Flame Territorial Lord is in this camp, said Song Heng. Jian Wushuang nodded as he had sensed an extremely tyrannical aura from the camp. Green Flame Territorial Lord. Jian Wushuang called out as his magnificent voice resounded vigorously throughout heaven and earth before naturally spreading toward the huge camp ahead. The camp immediately went into a commotion, and a few figures soon rose into the void with a ragged silver-haired old man in a loose robe leading. The silver-haired old man was none other than the Green Flame Territorial Lord. The Green Flame Territorial Lord noticed Jian Wushuang as soon as he appeared in the void. Carrying a long sword while wearing golden robes? You must be the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord, Jin. The Green Flame Territorial Lord folded his hands and looked at Jian Wushuang with a somewhat condescending attitude. I'm indeed Jian. I've also heard about you, Green Flame Territorial Lord, and always wanted to visit you, but something unfortunate came up. My apologies that you had to make the trip instead. Jian Wushuang started with a friendly greeting before going into a serious tone. However, I would have welcomed you if you're visiting alone, but I'm afraid it's too much for you to bring along 5 army battalions. Don't get me wrong. I heard there's a huge blood gem mineral vein in the Starfire Wilderness and am worried it might fall into the wrong hands, hence I came forth with my people to protect this area while you're away, said Green Flame Territorial Lord with a smile. Chapter 26-29. The Embarrassed Green Flame Territorial Lord. Protect it? They'll have to thank you then, Green Flame Territorial Lord, replied Jian Wushuang. You don't have to. The Northern Darkstar Territory and our Green Flame Star Territory are connected geographically. We should be helping each other, teased the Green Flame Territorial Lord. In this case, You won't have to protect the blood gem mineral vein anymore now that I've returned. You may now leave, said Jian Wushuang. That won't do. The Green Flame Territorial Lord shook his head. I've reported to Crimson Stone Fort about the blood gem mineral vein on your way back here. The Crimson Stone Fort has also dispatched some experts to retrieve this and had specifically ordered us to take good care of it before their arrival. Therefore, all of you will have to wait for Crimson Stone Fort's representatives. Jian Wushuang's expression turned cold after hearing that. It seems the Green Flame Star territory isn't going to leave. I can only use a little trick to make you leave if that's the case. Did you ask me to leave? You're quite confident, but I don't know where your confidence is coming from, the Green Flame Territorial Lord sneered and could not care less about Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was not angry but merely flipped his palm slowly. Buzz, buzz, buzz. 9 black infernal crimson divine swords appeared out of thin air in the void before Jian Wushuang. Those 9 infernal crimson divine swords each carried an infinite amount of transmigration strength. Are you going to fight? With that? The Green Flame Territorial Lord said disdainfully. Master. Song Heng and the other commanders frowned. However, Jian Wushuang merely smiled faintly before those 9 black infernal crimson divine swords instantly transformed into 9 huge meteorites and fiercely slammed toward the Green Flame Territorial Lord ahead. The Green Flame Territorial Lord stood calmly on the spot until the 9 huge meteorites appeared in front of him. His eyes narrowed slightly when the meteorites' power spread out. These 9 black swords seem quite powerful. The Green Flame Territorial Lord immediately took a shot and slammed the 9 swords with a sledgehammer that appeared in his hands. A peak Earth Ultimate God's divine power completely exploded with shocking power. Clang, 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 clang. After 9 continuous clanging sounds, the 9 huge meteorites transformed from the infernal crimson divine sword were sent flying out. The meteorites' terrifying power then collided with the Green Flame Territorial Lord and was forced to retreat a few steps backward. This kid seems to be much stronger than an ordinary high-level Earth Ultimate Gods. The Green Flame Territorial Lord held his hands together and prepared to make a move. Suddenly, congeal! Jian Wushuang only said a one-word command before the 9 infernal crimson divine swords instantly overlapped at an astonishing speed and caused a huge endless reincarnation passage to appear out of nowhere. A black divine sword encased in transmigration strength shot out from the end of that channel. The black divine sword was the result of a perfect sword formation made from the 9 overlapping infernal crimson divine swords. Boom! The black divine sword was like a huge awl with a terrifying power that penetrated the void and instantly appeared in front of the Green Flame Territorial Lord. Tia's power. The Green Flame Territorial Lord was shocked upon feeling the power contained therein, the black divine sword that was much stronger than him executing a blow with his full strength. He was so horrified that he did not have much time to think and could only spontaneously swing the large hammer in his hand as the ripples spread out before firing a series of attacks. Boom! There was a loud noise as terrifying powers erupted from the black divine sword, and the large hammer broke away from the Green Flame Territorial Lord's hand for the first time. The black divine sword did not stop but continued to bombard the Green Flame Territorial Lord's divine body. Puff! The Green Flame Territorial Lord shook slightly before spewing out a big mouthful of blood. His complexion instantly paled along with his Bodhis divine power breath dropped to an extremely low level. Buzz. The transmigration sword formation formed from the 9 overlapping infernal crimson divine swords returned to Jian Wushuang. Green Flame Territorial Lord, I'll give you a chance, 10 breaths. You and your people are to immediately return to the Green Flame Star territory within just 10 breaths of time. Otherwise, you'll lie here forever. Jian Wushuang folded his hands behind his back with his extremely cold gaze as he stared at the Green Flame Territorial Lord. His mighty voice reverberated throughout heaven and earth. The Green Flame Territorial Lord was trembling as he met Jian Wushuang's gaze. Though his eyes were filled with resentment, they were filled with even more fear and reverent awe. Jian Wushuang had just displayed a terrifying strength level which was too strong. The Green Flame Territorial Lord was perplexed as he could see that Jian Wushuang was only a high-level Earth Ultimate God, yet Jian Wushuang's sword formation defeated him in an instant. The Green Flame Territorial Lord would probably be dead had Jian Wushuang not held back his strength. He knew that Jian Wushuang's strength level was far beyond his own. He dared not defy Jian Wushuang's command for him and his people to leave within 10 breaths. "Let's go!" The Green Flame Territorial Lord immediately ordered the Green Flame Star Territory official army to retreat. The Green Flame Territorial Lord along with his official army quickly left within a few breaths toward the Green Flame Star Territory. The commanders of the Northern Darkstar Territory watched in awe and were completely stunned. They were just saying that Jian Wushuang would not be able to change anything due to his inferior high-level Earth Ultimate God battle strength against the peak Earth Ultimate God Green Flame Territorial Lord even if he returned. Jian Wushuang surprisingly made a boldly lightning fast shot and defeated the Green Flame Territorial Lord in the blink of an eye. The strength gap was too wide apart. Jian Wushuang's strength completely exceeded their expectations. Our Territorial Lord has instantly defeated the peak Earth Ultimate God Green Flame Territorial Lord. He's so powerful. I remember he was far from being this powerful when he fought Sen Shouwang not long ago. It didn't take long for him to improve until this level, right? He's so powerful. The commanders looked at Jian Wushuang with deep awe and reverence. Song Heng. Jian Wushuang glanced at Song Heng. Bring some people to take over the mineral vein and try to figure out in the shortest time possible the quantity of blood gem we have in the mineral vein since the Green Flame Star Territory's people are gone. Yes. Song Heng obeyed the order and immediately left with some people to do the surveying before presenting the results quite soon to Jian Wushuang. Chapter 2630. A visitor from the Crimson Stone Fort. It's more than 3 billion caddies. Perhaps somewhere between 3 to 4 billion? Jian Wushuang was surprised to hear the numbers from Song Heng. The market price for 1 caddy of blood gem was worth 10 primordial stones. 3 billion caddies of blood gem would cost a whopping 30 billion primordial stones. Unfortunately, we can't bag it all. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly along with the commanders next to him, showing an equally helpless expression. It would be fortunate if they would own up 1% of the entire blood gem's wealth. How long will it take for those from Crimson Stone Fort to arrive? Jian Wushuang asked. They're already on the way. You can expect them to be here within 10 days, replied Song Heng. Within 10 days? Well, wait for them then, said Jian Wushuang. 8 days passed. Jian Wushuang stayed in the blood gems camp throughout those 8 days. Master! Song Heng came in to report. The people from Crimson Stone Fort have arrived, but? Jian Wushuang asked. That inspector is their leader, said Song Heng. Inspector? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. Oh, you mean the inspector who deliberately made things difficult for me before I became the Territorial Lord? The one who asked me for benefits but I told him off, right? Yes, it's him. I find out that he's called Ji Nihong and does have a certain background in Crimson Stone Fort. I heard he's a direct disciple of a certain faction in Crimson Stone Fort. 4 people came with him this time and the 4 of them are peak Earth Ultimate Gods if my senses are correct, said Song Heng solemnly. We do have a bit of trouble here. I've offended him before, and he might make things hard for me since he's here as an inspector. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly but did not care too much. Let's go and meet the inspector first. Jian Wushuang went with Song Heng to the void outside their camp. The menace-looking purple-robed man, Ji Nihong, stood up in the void while peeping down at the blood gem mineral vein below. Thanks. It's way too big. How much exactly is it worth? I'm afraid it's worth a few 10 billion primordial stones. Ji Nihong was admiring the wealth contained in the mineral vein. According to Northern Darkstar Territory official army's message, the blood gems contained in this mineral vein are more than 3 billion caddies, with its value being more than 30 billion primordial stones, reported a peak Earth Ultimate God behind him. 30 billion primordial stones? The other peak Earth Ultimate Gods were shocked and began discussing. I really didn't expect there would be such a large mineral vein in an ordinary stellar region. Their Territorial Lord is going to make a fortune. Yes, According to Crimson Stone Fort's rules, we should reward the stellar region who discovered and reported to the Crimson Stone Fort of such valuable natural treasures like mineral veins. In this case, Crimson Stone Fort will only take away 90% of the treasures and give the remaining 10% to the territorial lord as a reward. It's impossible to leave 1/10 worth of such a huge treasure that's more than 30 billion primordial stones behind. I'm guessing that 1% is probably the capping amount. It's worth more than 300 million primordial stones even at only 1%. Many Heaven Ultimate Gods' net worths are less than 100 million primordial stones. This territorial lord has hit it big. The 4-peak Earth Ultimate Gods were green with envy during their conversation. They envied the Northern Darkstar territorial lord. Ji Nihong was unhappy when he heard their conversation. What nonsense! Ji Nihong rebuked, listen up. No one will bring up the reward later. Northern Darkstar territory is under Crimson Stone Fort's jurisdiction and even manages the entire Danyang Holy Domain. Crimson Stone Fort is out to mine it since a blood gem mineral vein appears in the Danyang Holy Domain. What does it have to do with the Northern Darkstar territorial lord? The 4-peak Earth Ultimate Gods looked at each other and did not say anything, but they knew what was going. Ji Nihong did not want to leave anything for the Northern Darkstar territorial lord and wanted to take the share that was supposed to be the Northern Darkstar territorial lord's. Jian Wushuang, Song Heng, and the other commanders had emerged from the camp and soon appeared in front of Ji Nihong. A pleasure to meet Master Inspector. Jian Wushuang bowed slightly while maintaining a humble posture in front of the inspector. Jian Yi, I didn't expect to meet you again so soon. Ji Nihong coldly stared at Jian Wushuang. He still remembered how he had suffered a loss from Jian Wushuang and was being resentful. I haven't seen you for many years, but you still haven't changed a bit. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Let's not carry on with the small talks. I'm here to first confirm whether there are such a large amount of blood gems mineral vein here. Crimson Stone Fort will naturally send a higher-level expert to acquire it upon confirmation. You should show me around this mineral vein at this instance, said Ji Nihong. No problem. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He beckoned Song Heng to take Ji Nihong and the others to survey the blood gem mineral vein. They were done with the survey in just a few moments. It's indeed a huge blood gem mineral vein. The amount of blood gems within is a lot and of extremely high value. Ji Nihong tightly clasped his hands with an excited expression. However, he soon calmed down and peered coldly at Jian Wushuang. I've checked the blood gem mineral vein and we now shall wait for the high-level experts from Crimson Stone Fort to arrive, acquire, and start mining it. There's nothing for you to do here, so you can go back for the time being. Jian Wushuang's face sank but did not make a move. Ji Nihong told them to leave but said nothing about the benefits and rewards they deserve to get. Master Inspector, the Northern Darkstar territory must be handed over the Crimson Stone Fort when something like the blood gem mineral vein appears according to Crimson Stone Fort's rules. If I remember correctly, doesn't Northern Darkstar territory also get to keep a portion of it? Said Jian Wushuang. Is there such a rule? Why don't I know of it? Ji Nihong pretended to be puzzled and even glanced at the 4-peak Earth Ultimate Gods behind him. Do we really have this rule in Crimson Stone Fort? The 4-peak Earth Ultimate Gods looked at each other and denied the existence of that rule out of fear they would offend Ji Nihong. Jian Yi, you heard it yourself. Crimson Stone Fort doesn't have this rule at all. You were wrong. Ji Nihong smiled evilly. Chapter 2631, 1 against 4, I was wrong. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. What Master Inspector means is that this blood gem mineral vein has nothing to do with Northern Darkstar territory? That's exactly what I mean. Ji Nihong smiled sinisterly. All right. Jian Wushuang glanced at Ji Nihong before turning around and left. Ji Nihong was smiling even wider when he saw that. However, Commander Song Heng. Jian Wushuang ordered. Tell the official army to retreat immediately and head back to the Northern Darkstar territory. Yes. Song Heng obeyed. Wait. Ji Nihong was in horror and said in a low voice, Jian Yi, what are you doing? Jian Wushuang turned around and sneered, Isn't it strange for you to ask this question, Master Inspector? You said that this blood gem mineral vein has nothing to do with my northern Dark Star territory. In that case, the official army doesn't need to spend their time guarding this area. I'll leave this completely to you. Let's go. Jian Wushuang led Song Heng and the remaining commanders away. They were about to leave the area. Stop! Ji Nihong shouted in a low voice. You can go, but the official army has to stay. Why is that so? Jian Wushuang asked quizzically. No particular reason. I need your official army, said Ji Nihong. He could not help it. He could care less if Jian Wushuang had left and was what he wanted. However, he did not think the same about the official army. The blood gem mineral vein is so huge, hence it's quite difficult to mine and would need many cultivators to work mining it. They would need to monitor and guard the many cultivators mining the mineral vein to prevent things from going wrong. Ji Nihong was an inspector sent by the Crimson Stone Fort, but only had 5 people in the team including himself. The 5 were enough to guard the blood gem mineral vein but were short-handed to fully monitor the mining activities and ensure the cultivators did not secretly hide a stash of the blood gems. A little carelessness was enough to lead to complete riots with many blood gems gone by then. That was why he needed the official army. The mining of blood gem would be safe and secure with 2 or 3 out of the 10 battalions guarding the mineral vein. Even though stealing seemed inevitable, the impact would not be big. Jian Wushuang knew Jin Yihang's intentions as he cracked a smile and said, Master, you won't give the northern Dark Star territory any benefits, but want my official army to guard the blood gem mineral vein. Can there be such a good deal in life? I don't care much, but you'll have to ask these commanders if they are willing to guard it for you. Song Heng and several other commanders who were behind Jian Wushuang stared at Ji Nihong with indifferent expressions. Although they were not in a position to protest due to the other party's identity, they looked extremely dissatisfied. What a joke! Who would be willing to work without any returns? Jin Yihang's complexion gradually became ugly under the few commanders' gaze. Let's go! Jian Wushuang waved his hand again. Jin Yihang's complexion turned ashen. You have to get my consent before leaving here. The 4 of you, go get and kill them if they dare resist, ordered Ji Nihong coldly. The 4 peak Earth ultimate gods behind Jin Yihong looked at each other and immediately stepped forward. Sorry, we're only following orders, said a white-robed middle-aged man among the 4. Just surrender yourself so that you'll suffer less. Otherwise, said an old man with red eyebrows. Jian Wushuang's expression turned cold as the 4 peak Earth ultimate gods approached. Buzz, 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 buzz. The transmigration power-filled infernal crimson divine swords were suspended in front of Jian Wushuang. Song Heng and the other commanders were staring at Jian Wushuang behind him. Those commanders were merely peak ultimate gods and unable to fight against the peak Earth ultimate gods. Hence Jian Wushuang was their only hope in walking away safely. They had witnessed how Jian Wushuang defeated the Green Flame Territorial Lord, who was also a peak Earth ultimate god. However, there were 4 peak Earth ultimate gods in front of Jian Wushuang at that moment. Congeal! Jian Wushuang indifferently said. The 9 infernal crimson divine swords immediately overlapped at an astonishing speed before causing a huge and endless reincarnation passage to appear out of thin air. A black divine sword encased with the transmigration power shot out from the end of that passage. The first level of transmigration sword formation, Heaven's Edge. Boom. The black divine sword was like a huge awl with a terrifying power that went straight at the 4 peak Earth ultimate gods. So stubborn. How dare you fire the first shot when facing 4 of us? He can't blame us since he has a death wish. The 4 peak Earth ultimate gods' expressions became cold as the 4 took action together. The 4 of them discharged their divine power breath and were noticeably much stronger than the Green Flame Territorial Lord. Any one of them was more powerful than that of the Green Flame Territorial Lord. The 4 of them then joined forces. As a result, boom, 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 boom. 4 consecutive collisions blasted in the void before 4 people were sent flying like cannonballs. The 4 people spewed blood as their divine power breath instantly died down along with the explosions. Jian Wushuang was concurrently fighting alone against the four-peak Earth Ultimate Gods. The four-peak Earth Ultimate Gods were completely defeated in just one blow. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted coldly. The black divine sword that resembled a huge awl shook slightly before a monstrous power erupted from it and charged toward Ji Nihong in the void. *T. Ji Nihong was taken aback. How could he think of resisting the blow as a merely high-level Earth Ultimate God when even four-peak Earth Ultimate Gods had been hit hard from the black divine sword's impact? No, stop it. Jin Yihong hysterically pleaded. However, the black divine sword did not hold back and went straight at his divine body. Jin Yihang's physical protection methods collapsed as the terrifying power instantly passed through his body. Chapter 2632, Condition Boom. Ji Nihong felt that he was hit hard by a huge world with its power grinding his body. His internal organs were displaced as blood poured out from his eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. The impact would be enough to instantly kill Ji Nihong had Jian Wushuang not held back toward the end. Ji Nihong barely managed to stand firm in the void with his pale face whereas his body was trembling violently. His divine power breath was at its weakest as though he could be completely wiped out at any time. Song Heng and several other commanders watched in disbelief. They knew that Jian Wushuang's combat power was at the peak Earth Ultimate God level and should be considered extremely strong among peak Earth Ultimate Gods upon seeing Jian Wushuang defeat the Green Flame Territorial Lord. However, they had never expected Jian Wushuang's combat prowess to be so strong. The four peak Earth Ultimate Gods who joined forces were instantly defeated without breaking a sweat. His combat prowess level was probably comparable with Heaven Ultimate Gods, right? How dare you hurt me? Jin Yihang's eyes widened followed by a loud shriek as he was looking at Jian Wushuang in malice and folly. Hurt you? The corner of Jian Wushuang's lips was slightly raised. No. I'm afraid you've misunderstood. Believe it or not only would I dare hurt you, but I also dare kill you too. Jian Wushuang's smiling expression looked like a devilish smile to Ji Nihong at that moment. No, you absolutely will not dare. I'm an inspector from the Crimson Stone Fort. Crimson Stone Fort will never let you go if you kill me. Ji Nihong roared with his deliberate loud tone and seemed to be cheering for himself. He firmly believed that Jian Wushuang would only hurt him at most and never thought that Jian Wushuang would ever kill him. Otherwise, Jian Wushuang would have killed him just now when he got the chance. Jian Wushuang looked at Ji Nihong and sneered, You're really stupid, so what if I kill you? Don't forget that the blood gem mineral vein is still in my hands. I believe many factions will be interested in this mineral vein if I release the news. Would the likes of Nanwo Palace, Divine Demon Sect, Life and Death Tower, Dongfang Clan, and such care about the Crimson Stone Fort? Do you think they want to accept it where Ito share this mineral vein with them in return for their protection? Ji Nihong was horrified. His pride, self-righteousness, and envious background in the Crimson Stone Fort collapsed. He might be full of himself, but he was no fool. He knew what Jian Wushuang said was true. Jian Wushuang was indeed capable of killing him on the spot. Jin Yihang's attitude began to change after recognizing the fact. Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. No, Master Jin. Ji Nihong forced a smile on his face. That's just a misunderstanding. We can slowly talk about it now. Talk about it? What do you want to talk about? Jian Wushuang sneered. Jin Yihang's divine power breath was extremely weak as he quickly took out a few elixir pills and swallowed them. He opened his mouth after a couple of breaths while still feeling a little weak and said, The blood gem mineral vein appeared in Northern Darkstar territory and was acquired by the official army earlier. Northern Darkstar territory can indeed keep a part of the wealth after alerting the Crimson Stone Fort of its existence according to the rules. However, this blood gem should be of no use to you, so we will replace it with primordial stones. Crimson Stone Fort will fork out 50 million primordial stone as a reward for Northern Darkstar territory who discovered and guarded this blood gem mineral vein. How about that? 50 million primordial stones? Song Heng and the other commanders were shocked and overjoyed. Primordial stones in the millions were exorbitant to those peak ultimate god commanders, as many of them could not earn even 1,000,000 primordial stones in their lifetime. It was not hard to imagine how happy they were with those 50 million primordial stones. They had never seen such a huge amount of primordial stones ever since they started cultivation. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang was a little dissatisfied when he heard the amount. 50 million primordial stones is too little. Are you trying to dismiss beggars? Don't forget that this blood gem mineral vein is huge, with its value of more than 30 billion primordial stones. How dare you offer us 50 million primordial stones? Ji Nihong was a little embarrassed and spoke again after a little hesitation. 100 million primordial stones. Nothing more. 100 million. The few commanders gasped. Jian Wushuang groaned slightly. 100 million primordial stones was not much for Jian Wushuang at that moment. However, he knew that he was merely a territorial lord with a combat power of at most heaven ultimate god. The Crimson Stone Fort was considered a powerful force to Jian Wushuang, so he could not ask for too much. Just as previously described, Crimson Stone Fort was taking the meat while Northern Darkstar territory could only just have its gravy. He got 100 million out of the 30 billion primordial stones. 1/300th was still quite a lot. Just 100 million then, but I have a condition, said Jian Wushuang. What condition? Jin Yihong glanced over. I don't need primordial stones. I want divine elixir pills. You'll have to replace the 100 million primordial stones with an equivalent amount of divine elixir pills, which comes to 20 divine elixir pills, said Jian Wushuang. Ji Nihong roared, no way! A divine elixir pill's market price is worth 5 million primordial stones. However, the fact remains that you might not even be able to exchange them for a single divine elixir pill, even if you fork out 10 million primordial stones. Although Crimson Stone Fort has an extraordinary background and a lot of elixir pills, we'll never give away 20 divine elixir pills as a reward. It's simply impossible. Ji Nihong paused before continuing. 15, at most 15 divine elixir pills. I have to get approval from the Crimson Stone Fort's high-level management to personally agree to this condition for this. Just 15 it is. You may get the approval now. Jian Wushuang smiled. He never expected to get 20 divine elixir pills and thought it was quite good if they could get even 10. 15 was beyond his expectations. According to his estimations, he would need about 20 divine elixir pills to make a breakthrough from peak ultimate god to primary level earth ultimate god. He had already obtained 4 divine elixir pills and would have 19 divine elixir pills when he received the 15 from Crimson Stone Fort. It should allow him to attempt a breakthrough to the primary level earth ultimate god realm. Chapter 2633. Earth Ultimate God Ji Nihong sent a message to the Crimson Stone Fort's higher-ups and soon received a response. Jian Yi, Crimson Stone Fort agreed to 15 divine elixir pills. Lord King Scorpion will soon arrive from Crimson Stone Fort a few days later and personally give you the divine elixir pills, said Ji Nihong. The corner of Jian Wushuang's mouth was slightly raised. Let's go. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and headed back to the camp with Song Heng and the other commanders, ignoring Ji Nihong and his entourage. Back in the camp, I can't believe that Crimson Stone Fort agreed to 15 divine elixir pills. I thought it's already extremely generous of Crimson Stone Fort to give tens of millions of primordial stones. Who knew they would agree to give 15 divine elixir pills? This is also because our territorial lord is powerful. I'm afraid this inspector would have really not given us even a single primordial stone and make us work in vain if our territorial lord was someone ordinary. Although we'll be dissatisfied, there's nothing we can do about it. A few commanders were sighing and admiring Jian Wushuang. Territorial lord, did you know that the Crimson Stone Fort higher-ups would agree to your request for 15 divine elixir pills? Song Heng looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang shook his head before continuing, no, I wasn't sure. Although I'm not sure whether they'll agree to give me 15 divine elixir pills, they'll agree to give us a huge sum of primordial stones, as they aren't as stupid as Ji Nihong. This rule of the stellar region having a share of the wealth upon the discovery of any valuable resources in their stellar regions has been enforced by the Crimson Stone Fort for a long time to satisfy the stellar region's territorial lord and official army. Take this blood gem mineral vein as an example. If the Northern Darkstar territory hands over to the Crimson Stone Fort without receiving any benefits, the Northern Darkstar territory will never again do so for any new resources in the future. Secondly, even if Crimson Stone Fort used some despicable means and forced us to guard the blood gem mineral vein, our armies will be dissatisfied and might even do a lousy job of monitoring and guarding. The official army might even pocket some blood gems, which caused Crimson Stone Fort to end up losing even more. Crimson Stone Fort won't be so stupid to make that sort of decision. The commanders nodded in agreement. A few days later, Jian Wushuang arrived with a few official army commanders in the void above the blood gem mineral vein. Ji Nihong and the others respectfully stood there and waited as more than 10 black spots soon appeared in the void. Those more than 10 black spots were getting larger as they approached and soon appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in the blink of an eye. Ji Nihong meets Lord Scorpion King. Ji Nihong and the 4-peak Earth Ultimate Gods behind him immediately bowed and saluted before Jian Wushuang, and the official army commanders followed suit. Jian Wushuang was observing those people's strength at the same time. He was quite shaken up after his observation. The more than a dozen people were experts above the Heaven Ultimate God realm. Especially the beefy middle-aged man Lord King Scorpion King wearing black armor and leading the group. His divine power breath had completely exceeded the Heaven Ultimate God realm. He was a Grand Ultimate God. Crimson Stone Fort had sent a Grand Ultimate God along with more than a dozen Heaven Ultimate Gods. It only showed how much attention the Crimson Stone Fort paid toward the blood gem mineral vein. Ji Nihong? Jin Yan's younger generation? The beefy middle-aged man, Lord King Scorpion, glanced at Ji Nihong and snorted softly. The light snort seemed insouciant, but Jian Wushuang saw and got the idea. He could see that Lord King Scorpion was a bit displeased with Ji Nihong, to be precise with Jin Yan. Are they from different factions? Jian Wushuang muttered secretly. He knew that Crimson Stone Fort was divided into many factions. Those factions fought overtly and covertly, but matters never got too ugly. The Lord King Scorpion's behavior toward Jin Yan and Jin Yihong clearly showed that they were not part of his faction. Are you the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord? Lord King Scorpion looked at Jian Wushuang again. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded in neither a humble nor pert manner. Here are the 15 divine elixir pills that you wanted. Lord King Scorpion waved and threw an interspatial ring over before saying, I've given the divine elixir pills to you, but I hope the blood gem mineral vein mining will go smoothly with no more changes. Otherwise, Master, don't worry. Our Northern Darkstar Territory official army will go all out to ensure there'll be no problems in mining the blood gems, said Jian Wushuang. That's good. Lord King Scorpion nodded. Commander Song Heng, let's start mining, said Jian Wushuang. Yes. Song Heng immediately acted. Jian Wushuang had already sent someone to gather cultivators for mining the blood gems before Lord King Scorpion and the others even turned up. The refinement materials for Heavenly Treasure's blood gems were not easy to mine as it's extremely hard and buried deep underground, hence cultivators who worked on mining must at least be in the divine demon realm, precisely second-class divine demons and even first-class divine demons. They must also possess a tyrannical divine power foundation before they could mine the blood gems. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate to spend a lot of money and brought in a large number of divine demons from other wildernesses for that reason. A few 10,000 divine demon realm cultivators were gathered as a result of Jian Wushuang promising them a lot of benefits in return. A few 10,000 cultivators had started mining under Jian Wushuang's commands while the official army dispatched 4 army battalions to guard the area whilst the others returned to Northern Darkstar Territory. As for Jian Wushuang, he returned to the camp and immediately began seclusion cultivation. Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged in an exquisite attic completely covered by the restrictive shield with the 19 divine elixir pills before him. I hope the 19 diviner elixir pills won't let me down. Jian Wushuang was excited as he began to absorb and refine those divine elixir pills. Time flew past in the blink of an eye, and soon a month had passed. Jian Wushuang had been sitting with his eyes closed in the attic where he suddenly shook before sharply opening his eyes that shone brightly. The divine power breath from his body was many times stronger than before. What good luck! Although I've only swallowed 19 divine elixir pills, I still managed to make a breakthrough. Am now an Earth Ultimate God. Chapter 2634 Royal Blood Gem. There was a huge gap between the strength of an Earth Ultimate God and an ordinary Ultimate God. Jian Wushuang went from the peak Ultimate God realm to the primary level Earth Ultimate God realm. Thereby, his overall strength was greatly improved. Now, even if I don't use the stately painting and settle with just having a few secret techniques, I should be able to compete against the ordinary heaven ultimate gods. Jian Wushuang clasped his hands tightly. He looked surprised. Soon, Jian Wushuang walked out of the attic. After walking out, he did not deliberately conceal his aura. He was originally giving away the aura of a primary level Earth Ultimate God. Under the cover of the black stone, he exuded an aura of a peak Earth Ultimate God. Jian Wushuang went up into the void and wandered around the blood gem mineral vein. Tens of thousands cultivators were gathered in the huge mineral vein, mining the blood gem. Suddenly, something that was happening on a big tree not far away attracted Jian Wushuang's attention. That big tree was located at a high place. Hence, it was conspicuous. However, what really caught Jian Wushuang's attention was that there were more than a dozen dead bodies hanging from the trunk of the big tree. Those corpses hanging from the tree trunk were obviously there as a warning. Song Heng, Jian Wushuang spoke, his voice echoing. Song Heng came up behind Jian Wushuang in just a jiffy. What's going on? Jian Wushuang pointed at the dozen corpses hanging from the tree and asked in a cold tone. Master, those people were killed by the inspector 10 days ago. Song Heng replied, it's such a big mineral vein with tens of thousands of people mining. Some people escaped the official army surveillance and stole some of the blood gems. This is inevitable. However, the inspector did an ad hoc body search on some cultivators who were mining. He forcibly searched for some treasures on them. As a result, more than a dozen people were found to be hiding some blood gems. In fact, the amount found on them wasn't much, mostly 1 caddy or 2 caddies. The inspector killed them nonetheless and then left them hanging on the tree. Besides, he also reprimanded the official army for not doing a good job. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly after hearing it. He knew that was beating the dog before the lion to serve as a deterrent to the miners. The inspector had not done anything wrong, but Jian Wushuang thought that the inspector was heavy-handed. Did Ji Nihong ask to check the official army's interspatial rings? Jian Wushuang asked. No, he didn't, answered Song Heng. Okay. Pass the order to those divine demon realm miners that I'll pay them 3 times more than the original agreed amount after they're done with it. Tell them to work honestly and don't try to get out of line. Otherwise, they might survive if the official army found out, but they won't be that lucky with the inspector. I won't be able to save them if it happens, said Jian Wushuang. Yes. Song Heng nodded. By the way, have you distributed the primordial stones that I gave to all the army brothers? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, it's all done. Song Heng cracked a smile immediately. Master, you gave us 10 million primordial stones at one go. All of us got quite a fair bit after the division. The peak divine demon realm armies received around hundreds each. Primary level ultimate god sergeants and high level ultimate god captains received a little bit more, and of course, the commanders enjoyed a bigger amount. The brothers in the army are very grateful for Master. Song Heng was telling the truth. Jian Wushuang received 15 divine elixir pills from Crimson Stone Fort, which he needed all of it for himself. Then again, he would never mistreat his official army, so he took out 10 million primordial stones to distribute among the armies. There were 10,000 men in each battalion, and there were altogether 10 battalions. Each of the armies got a fair share from the pool of primordial stones, especially the 10 commanders. They were grateful to their territorial lord, Jian Wushuang. Okay, let the brothers continue to be on guard. I'll fork out another batch of primordial stones to distribute among the brothers when the mining is over and the Crimson Stone Fort officials have left. Jian Wushuang smiled, waved his hand and returned to the camp. Then he began cultivating on his own. Thereafter, the blood gem mining was progressing smoothly. With Jian Wushuang's promise, many of the divine demon realm miners were able to keep mining with a peace of mind. There were not many of them who would risk getting caught stealing the blood gems. Actually, they had no idea what the blood gem was and how much it cost. They would not want to risk the consequences of stealing when Jian Wushuang had clearly given them a good promise. In addition, what Jin Yihong did earlier served the deterrence effect. 2 years had passed. This mineral vein was extremely huge and there were billions of caddies of blood gems. It was extremely high in value and it was extremely difficult to mine. Therefore, after the few 10,000 demon realm cultivators had been mining for 2 years, they had only managed to complete 1/3 of it. Back in the camp, Jian Wushuang was sitting in the attic, quietly comprehending the Fenshin scroll. Without warning, "Master!" Song Heng's voice came from outside the attic. Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes. "Commander Song Heng, what's the matter? Something is on. Come and have a look quickly." Song Heng sounded anxious. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. He put away the Feng Tian scroll and went out with Song Heng. Soon, Song Heng led Jian Wushuang to one of the mines. There were countless mines where the few tens of thousand people were mining. Jian Wushuang arrived at an ordinary mine. There were 2 commanders with several divine demon realm miners in the mine. "Song Heng, what is going on?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Master, look at that." Song Heng pointed in one direction. Jian Wushuang glanced over and what he saw was a stone wall in the mine. The stone wall was made of blocks of blood gems. The gems were in light hazy blood color. Those gems were the blood gems. However, among the many blood gems on the stone wall, Jian Wushuang spotted a piece of gem in a much darker shade than the other blood gems. It was a complete blood red in color. The other blood gems were in a faint blood color and some had blood streaks in them, but the one that Jian Wushuang saw was deep red in color like blood. Could this be the legendary royal blood gem? Jian Wushuang went wide-eyed in surprise and his heart was beating fast. Chapter 2635, Greed Royal Blood Gem was the king of blood gems. There were rumors that only large billion caddies blood gem mineral veins would have a small chance of finding a royal blood gem. It was extremely hard to get one royal blood gem out of hundreds or even thousands of blood gem mineral veins under normal circumstances. The value of the royal blood gem was naturally worth far more compared to ordinary blood gems. Ordinary blood gems were used to refine some ordinary heavenly treasures, whereas royal blood gems were used to refine holy treasures. It was the main refinement material for many holy treasures. The bright red gem embedded in the stone wall before their eyes was a royal blood gem. This blood gem mineral vein not only has more than 3 billion caddies of blood gems but also produced a royal blood gem? Jian Wushuang was secretly admiring the gem before turning around and asked, "Who's the first to discover this gem?" A first-class divine demon in the mine immediately stepped forward and respectfully answered, "Master, it's me. I was the first to discover this gem. I initially thought this gem was the same as others with merely a darker color shade and I didn't care too much about it. However, I found it to be far harder than ordinary gems when I was about to remove them from the wall. I will usually be able to crack an ordinary gem with just one blow of my axe, while a few blows would get it off the wall. This one was different as I've tried chopping it a few times with my axe using all my might, but it won't even budge and there isn't even a crack on it. I immediately knew this gem was extraordinary, so I invited the commander over." After the first-class divine demon finished speaking, Song Heng also took a step forward and softly whispered, "Master, I've checked that this person is telling the truth. He immediately told the official army to get me the moment he found this gem is extraordinary. He didn't tell anyone about his discovery while I've also covered up the news. Everyone who knows about this gem is in this mine as of now." Jian Wushuang glanced at everyone in the mine and nodded slightly. "Master, this gem is a rare find if I'm not mistaken, and it's probably countless times more precious than blood gems. Although we only have this single piece of royal blood gem, its value is probably higher than the entire mineral vein. The most important matter is that we're the only ones who know about this royal blood gem. The people from Crimson Stone Fort don't know about it yet, said Song Heng in a low voice. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He knew what Song Heng was trying to convey. People are greedy. Song Heng and Jian Wushuang were no exception. Taking the blood gem mineral vein as an example, who would not be tempted by a blood gem mineral vein worth a few tens of billion primordial stones? Who would not want to own the mine? It would require a lot of manpower to mine such a large mineral vein, hence it was impossible to hide from the Crimson Stone Fort as there was no way to drown the commotion. They had no choice but to inform the Crimson Stone Fort of its existence. The royal blood gem was a different game altogether. He could remove that single piece of royal blood gem and hide it. The Crimson Stone Fort would not be able to find out as long as he was able to shut the mouth of those people present in the mine. They would never imagine Jian Wushuang was hiding a piece of royal blood gem. The royal blood gem was too rare after all, with the probability of getting one in a large blood gem mineral vein extremely minimal. Crimson Stone Fort had never thought there would be a royal blood gem in the mineral vein, and neither had it ever crossed Jian Wushuang's mind. Don't worry, send someone to guard outside, and do not allow anyone to come in. Let's take it down first before we continue talking, ordered Jian Wushuang. Yes. Song Heng immediately sent someone to guard outside. They did not make it obvious, but tried to act normal and were cautious not to attract others' attention instead. Jian Wushuang started digging out the royal blood gem. Master, this royal blood gem is so hard. I've made an attempt before, but failed, said Song Heng. Leave it to me. Jian Wushuang pulled out his Blood Mountain sword from behind and was about to do it himself. The Blood Mountain sword traced the royal blood gem's outline under the guidance of surging divine power. The royal blood gem then was cut out neatly in an instant. As expected, Jian Wushuang chuckled. Although he did not cut the royal blood gems directly and only cutting the ordinary blood gems on its edge, the neighboring blood gems were also affected due to close vicinity with the royal blood gems, making them harder than ordinary blood gems. It was almost impossible to cut the gem out so neatly if one was a peak Earth Ultimate God or even a Heaven Ultimate God. Jian Wushuang was able to do so not only due to his strength but his Blood Mountain sword, which played a great role. The Blood Mountain sword was his life-divine weapon and extremely sharp, so cutting blood gems was not a problem at all. The royal blood gem was pulled out from the stone wall by Jian Wushuang in just a few moments. Due to the royal blood gem's considerably large size and also some ordinary blood gems that were trapped in the middle, Jian Wushuang had to divide the royal blood gem into 3 before removing those ordinary blood gems to maintain its purity. So we have 3 pieces of royal blood gems. Jian Wushuang looked intently at the 3 royal blood gems. Those 3 royal blood gems were of different sizes, with the smallest only the size of a thumb. However, the thumb-sized piece of royal blood gems surprisingly weighed 10 caddies due to its high density. One of the remaining 2 pieces was the size of a baby's fist as Jian Wushuang held it in his hand, felt its weight, and estimated it to be more than 200 caddies. The last piece was the largest and most complete form, with the size of an adult's head. Jian Wushuang held it in his hand and estimated its weight to be more than 10,000 caddies. 10,000 caddies of royal blood gem. Jian Wushuang clasped his hands together with shining eyes. He knows how rare and precious the royal blood gem was, but had no idea how much a caddy of royal blood gem was worth. He was sure the value for 10,000 caddies of royal blood gem was much higher than the entire mineral vein. Master! Song Heng and the other 2 commanders enthusiastically looked at Jian Wushuang in extreme excitement. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and calmed himself. Come here, all of you. Jian Wushuang glanced at the divine demon realm cultivators. They immediately stepped forward and were a little worried about what was going to happen. There are 1,000 primordial stones in each interspatial ring. Take it. Jian Wushuang handed a few interspatial rings to the divine demon realm cultivators. Chapter 2636. An uninvited visit, 1,000 primordial stones? The divine demons were dumbfounded. They were stunned by the huge surprise. Second-class and first-class divine demons like them who remained in the wilderness normally only use ancient god divine power in their transactions. 10,000 ancient god divine power only equated to 1 primordial stone. 1,000 primordial stones meant 10 million ancient god divine power, which was a lot more than the total assets owned by some wilderness sections. Gifting them with such wealth? It was 1,000 primordial stones each. It caught them in a total surprise, of course. However, Jian Wushuang continued to speak. It's true that these primordial stones are for you, but don't get too happy too soon. I'll plant a restrictive spell on each of you that would not activate in normal circumstances. However, I will sense it immediately if you mention what happened today to anyone, and the spell will immediately trigger, killing you right there and then. The divine demons shuddered before immediately snapping out of it. Sir, please be assured that we'll never mention what happened today to anyone, said one of them. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and casually planted the restrictive spell on each of them. You may go. The divine demons left the mining cave excited and perturbed as Jian Wushuang waved his hand. Jian Wushuang looked over to Zhang Heng and the other few commanders before taking out a similar interspatial ring after those divine demons had left. Inside the ring is 20 million primordial stones which you can split among yourselves. All of you are my people, so I won't plant the spell on you. However, I do have to say that you'd better forget about everything you saw here. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless, said Jian Wushuang frostily. Zhang Heng nodded immediately. Your Excellency, please be assured that we won't utter a word about today's occurrence. The other 2 commanders nodded in agreement. Although 20 million primordial stones was far from the royal blood gem's value, it was quite an astronomical amount to the commanders. Even after they gave some to their soldiers and divided it equally among themselves, they each would still have a few million primordial stones. It was enough to shut them up. Come, let's get out of here. Jian Wushuang and his men left the mining cave, ready to return to camp. On their return path, Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord, where do you think you're going? An evil smile appeared in a void beside them. Jian Wushuang's face turned grim when he looked over and recognized who it was. It was none other than Inspector Genie Hong. Other than him, another person was gliding next to him, a heaven ultimate god. Jian Wushuang would normally not be worried about Genie Hong. However, Genie Hong paid him a surprise visit right after Jian Wushuang and his men left the mining cave, which made him begin to wonder. Is he suspecting something about what just happened? Jian Wushuang thought to himself but quickly negated the idea. No, I have planted my restrictive spell on those divine demons. They won't have the guts to spill the secret, while Zhang Heng and the rest have been handsomely bribed to the extent they won't receive a better amount even if they told Crimson Stone Fort the secret. Therefore, they have no reason to sell me out either. In addition, those who are present won't only be Genie Hong if word about Royal Blood Gem is out. However, he was still quite alarmed even after concluding that Genie Hong was not there for Royal Blood Gem. Mr. Inspector, I just had a detailed investigation of this mineral vein and about to return to the camp. I wonder what's the urgency? Jian Wushuang casually spoke. Oh, I've nothing urgent, but Mr. Qingzhe here is seeking you out for some matters, said Genie Hong devilishly. The large man next to him stared at Jian Wushuang and asked, So, this man is whom you said easily defeated 4 peak Earth Ultimate Gods while still only at the high-level Earth Ultimate God realm, the Northern Dark Star Territory Lord? He has obviously reached peak Earth Ultimate God according to his aura. It's him, but his aura... Perhaps he just made a breakthrough to that level very recently, said Genie Hong. The large man called Qingzhe heartily laughed. Breakthrough? Great. Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord, right? My name is Qingzhe. I heard from Inspector Jean that you're a supremely capable and talented fighter, able to easily crush 4 peak Ultimate Gods while still a high-level Earth Ultimate God. However, I have yet to witness those occurrences with my own eyes, so I don't really believe what I've heard, hence I asked Inspector Jean to bring me here to meet you. I'm here at quite the right timing as your current ability must be even higher than I initially thought since you have made a breakthrough to peak Earth Ultimate God. Come, let's have a duel. Qingzhe stared at Jian Wushuang like a hunter eyeing his prey. Jian Wushuang's expression turned dark. He had finally figured it out. Qing Zhe was someone Ji Nihong brought over to seek troubles. It was most probably because he was unhappy about the fact of being defeated twice previously, hence he was looking for a chance to take back his pride. Ji Nihong brought a heaven ultimate god along as an earth ultimate god was not sufficient to lay a hand on him. There were a dozen Crimson Stone Fort heaven ultimate gods who were guarding the mineral vein, and it was very easy to seek out one of them after all. My ability isn't as strong as the inspector described, but am happy to indulge Mr. Qing Zhe if you so wish, said Jian Wushuang. Ha, great. Qing Zhe immediately laughed. Let's just do it here. Sure. Jian Wushuang did not waste another word and immediately with his mind. Ring, 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 ring. Infernal crimson divine swords that were shrouded by samsara strength appeared in the void one by one. There were a total of 9 swords with each stirring the void and forming multiple reincarnation passages. Go! The 9 infernal blood divine swords charged right at Qing Zhe like 9 humongous asteroids as Jian Wushuang pointed. He could already easily defeat a peak ultimate god with that move before even making a breakthrough to earth ultimate god with his full strength. His divine power had increased incredibly since reaching the earth ultimate god level, hence the energy from the same move had surged 10 times more than previous. The 9 asteroids arrived before Qing Zhe in the blink of an eye with terrifyingly overpowering momentum. His energy is pretty strong for sure. Qing Zhe's eyes were shining fervently as he took a step forward with divine power violently gathered in his hand. He began throwing out a series of explosive punches as the heaven ultimate god divine power energy burst outward. Chapter 2637. Battling Qing Zhe. Boom. 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 A series of 9 impact explosions resonated as those 9 asteroids charged without any hesitation. Everything died down very soon. 9 swords combine, Heaven's Edge. The 9 infernal crimson divine swords overlapped and formed a complete transmigration sword formation as coldness shot out of Jian Wushuang's eyes. At the same time, a surging golden divine power gathered behind Jian Wushuang and formed a 9,000 meters tall golden god shadow in the blink of an eye. The golden god shadow stood tall overlooking heaven and earth as Jian Wushuang's aura once again surged radically. Kill! The black divine sword that was transformed from transmigration sword formation penetrated the void like an awl and appeared once again before Qing Zhe. Qing Zhe was surprised as he could also feel the unusual pressure from the sword formation. He immediately flipped his giant hand as a green battle saber appeared. A sharp saber light flashed like lightning in the sunny sky and clashed head-on against the black divine sword. Clink. The black divine sword trembled slightly and paused for a second in the void before shooting out once again after a brief moment. On the other hand, Qing Zhe was being stunned backward for a few steps. Not only did Qing Zhe not get mad after steadying himself, but was also laughing as well. Ha! Your battle strength is really high. Traces of green lightning began appearing on Qing Zhe's entire body, which covered him like an armor of lightning after a series of crackling sounds. He had also at the same time grown twice from his original size. He then took a step forward with his battle saber swung outward once again. There was literally a bolt of violent green lightning descending from above at that time. Boom! The sound shook the heavens as the black divine sword flew backward and Qing Zhe retreated 3 steps. Let's do it again. Qing Zhe let out loud maniacal laughter while he stepped forward and swung his battle saber again. Jian Wushuang was not afraid at all as he clashed head-on with Qing Zhe time and again with his transmigration sword formation. Boom! 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 Violently overpowering energy ruthlessly swept outwards following those continuous collisions. The booming noises resonated between heaven and earth. Countless experts in the blood gem mineral vein, be it divine demon workers, official army soldiers, or even Crimson Stone Fort experts all noticed the activity. Suddenly, many figures flew up. There was a grandiose palace on the peak of one of the mountains as a middle-aged man clad in black battle armor looking strong like a bull walked outside from the palace. The middle-aged man was none other than the grand ultimate god, Scorpion King. At that moment, He had also noticed the battle in the void not far from him. It's Qing Zhe fighting against the man. Isn't that the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord? Scorpion King was shocked. He had met the Territorial Lord once and recalled him being only a high-level Earth Ultimate God. However, he had already made a breakthrough to the peak Earth Ultimate God in only 2 years. Not only that, he was even fighting fiercely against the Heaven Ultimate God Qing Zhe as a peak Earth Ultimate God at a similar battle prowess. They were truly at a similar level. Qing Zhe's saber skills were intense and violent with his overpowering energy. However, Jian Wushuang's transmigration sword formation energy that burst out had reached the level of a Heaven Ultimate God with the help of Divine God of Punishment. The sword formation attacked continuously and collided against Qing Zhe's battle saber head-to-head while showing no signs of losing. Interesting. Scorpion King broke out a smile. The divine power between an Earth Ultimate God and Heaven Ultimate God should be 10 times apart, not to mention the level of their principle and law understanding in addition to various tactics. However, this Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord's abilities are truly quite on par with a Heaven Ultimate God judging from the way he controls the sword formation. This Northern Darkstar Territory Lord a genius? Genius. Yes, he's surely a genius for unleashing the battle strength comparable to Heaven Ultimate God while being an Earth Ultimate God. There may not even be a small handful of geniuses such as him in the entire Danyang Holy Domain. On the battlefield, Qing Zhe began to feel quite embarrassed after multiple collisions and not gaining the least bit of advantage. Especially when there were so many Heaven Ultimate Gods from Crimson Stone Fort around who were laughing and jesting at him. They talk about how a Heaven Ultimate God like him could not even handle a little Earth Ultimate God and brought embarrassment to all Heaven Ultimate Gods, etc. Although they were Qing Zhe's friends and just ridiculing him with friendliness, it still made Qing Zhe feel insulted. I'm done with playing games. Qing Zhe let out a low growl as the green lightning over his body suddenly burst out like a huge electric net spreading across his surroundings. The infinitely intense saber essence spread along with it. Boom! A powerful principal world directly pressed against Jian Wushuang. The principal world of the Heaven Ultimate God had also reached Profound Realm. Qing Zhe shuttled in the net, dodging the attacks from Transmigration Sword Formation, and rushed toward Jian Wushuang's physical body. Your sword formation is indeed strong, but it's designed for range attacks. I'll easily defeat you as long as I don't go head-on against it like a fool and get close to you, growled Qing Zhe softly. Is that so? Jian Wushuang sneered on the other hand. A gigantic sword world had befallen. Although Jian Wushuang's sword world was only at merit level and being held back without unleashing the sword world's full potential, the sword world still matched Qing Zhe's principal world in strength as it struck. What? A merit principal world could match my profound realm? Qing Zhe was rather surprised but did not care too much as he already appeared before Jian Wushuang. Qing Zhe held his battle saber in one hand which carried infinite green lightning like a god of thunder. 3 continuous strikes violently lashed out at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang sneered as his physical form suddenly shook. Multiple apparitions appeared which filled the entire heaven and earth. There were not less than 300 apparitions in a glance. The apparitions moved unpredictably at lightning speed such that even Heaven Ultimate God Qing Zhe could not identify Jian Wushuang's true physical form. The 3 saber lights finally ended up landing on an apparition. A freezing cold sword essence suddenly appeared at the same time. Qing Zhe subconsciously looked to the side as a tight-knit sword net had shrouded him while countless sword shadows attacked him one after another. Qing Zhe used his full might to block those sword shadows. Both of them reverted to struggling against each other again as multiple metal clashing sounds started resonating. Chapter 2638, The Scorpion King's Invitation in the Void. 2 figures passed each other by repeatedly and a wave of terrifying energy swept out in a frenzy. They were in an apparently heated battle. Qing Zhe thought Jian Wushuang was only good at manipulating the sword formation to get close to him and that Jian Wushuang was no match to Qing Zhe if they got into a close quarter fight. Little did he know that he was wrong. As soon as he got close to him, he realized that Jian Wushuang's close-quarter combat skills were just as good. His understanding of space-time law and sword skills were extremely deep. He was not worried about his opponent getting close. When combining those abilities with the sword formation, he even caused Qing Zhe quite a bit of anxiety. There was nothing he could. After a long, intense fight, Jian Wushuang actually made Qing Zhe realize that there was nothing he could do. Stop! Qing Zhe suddenly distanced from him and Jian Wushuang paused his fight. I didn't believe what Inspector Jean's description of you. I didn't believe what he said. Finally, I get to witness it myself. Qing Zhe looked at Jian Wushuang, rather stunned. At peak Earth Ultimate God's level, you can already easily defeat a peak Earth Ultimate God. And now that you've broken through peak Earth Ultimate God, the power of your battle strength is actually comparable to regular Heaven Ultimate Gods. Even I can't do anything to you. I salute you. You're being too kind. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. Jian Wushuang did not give all he had in the fight, nor did he utilize a lot of his tactics. However, the same could be said for Qing Zhe. They were merely testing each other out. There was no need to determine who the winner was, nor did they have to fight to death. Even so, the fight was rather meaningful to Jian Wushuang, as he had a basic idea of where his battle strength was at. Inspector Jean. Qing Zhe looked unhappily at Jeannie Hong. You saw it? I simply couldn't do anything to the Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord. I guess you'll have to find someone else to teach him a lesson. Qing Zhe smiled devilishly and left. Jin Yihang's face was full of embarrassment. Indeed, he personally went to Qing Zhe and tried many ways to trick him into agreeing to fight Jian Wushuang. His goal was to let Qing Zhe teach Jian Wushuang a good lesson, just to vent his own dissatisfaction. However, not only Qing Zhe had nothing on Jian Wushuang, he even sold him out in front of Jian Wushuang and the crowd when he left, revealing that it was Jin Yihang who asked him to come. That was rather unethical to begin with, and on top of that, Qing Zhe revealed it deliberately. Mr. Inspector. As expected, Jian Wushuang looked at Jin Yihang directly and said coldly, You're a respectable inspector from the Crimson Stone Fort. Every word you said and every action you carry out represents the fort. How can you be so despicable? Jin Yihang shuddered, but he could find no words to talk back. Let's go, said Jian Wushuang and went back to the camp with the official army commanders. Jin Yihang stood in the void, clearly sensing that many pairs of eyes looked at him in a strange way. Many of those looks were from the divine demon miners and official army soldiers. There were also some Heaven Ultimate Gods from the Crimson Stone Fort. The Heaven Ultimate Gods looked at him tauntingly in disdain. That made Jin Yihang even more embarrassed. He could not stay any longer and left quickly. On the peak not so far away, Scorpion King, who was in full battle armor and strong like a bull, smiled mysteriously. Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord. Never have I thought such an incredible genius exists in this tiny stellar region. Very interesting. Crimson Stone Fort is in a terrible situation as it's facing pressure from a few top powers from the outside. The factions within Crimson Stone Fort itself are a big threat to the Fort Master as well. At this moment, the Fort Master is in dire need to train some experts to support her. Although this Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord is only an Earth Ultimate God, he is extremely gifted. It's worth the effort to try persuading him. After mumbling a little, Scorpion King went back into the palace. After Jian Wushuang returned to the camp, he dismissed Song Heng and the rest and went back to the exquisite penthouse. As soon as he arrived at the penthouse, he set up a restrictive shield, then flipped his hand and took out the smallest sized royal blood gem, which was as tiny as a thumb. Royal blood gem. Looking at the royal blood gem before him, Jian Wushuang's eyes burned with passion. Although I don't know the exact value of this blood gem, as the main material to cultivate holy treasure, it must be unusually valuable. The value of this little thumb-sized piece that I'm holding, which doesn't weigh more than 10 pounds, must be beyond my imagination. I also possess one that is 200 pounds and another one 10,000 pounds. The total value must be. I'm rich, this time I'm going to be rich. Jian Wushuang was incredibly excited. At that point, he did not need to cultivate any treasure. The royal blood gems were of no use to him. Looking at it, Jian Wushuang could almost see countless divine elixir pills that could help him break through his current level, making his ability increase drastically. No hurry, we're still in the process of mining royal blood gems, so I can't leave for the time being. I need to wait till later, when the gems are all being mined and when the dust is settled, before I can find a chance to bring royal blood gems to exchange for divine elixir pills. Repressing his excitement, Jian Wushuang calmed as soon as he could. At the same time, he was slightly alert. He knew he had made a fortune, but it was a windfall, which was supposed to be kept a secret. As soon as people from Crimson Stone Fort or other powers knew that a little territorial lord obtained 10,000 pounds of royal blood gem, there would be many who would keep an eye on him. In the penthouse, Jian Wushuang gradually shut his eyes and began to cultivate himself. The cultivation only lasted for a day. Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. A resonant voice came above the campground. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes and went up to the void above in just a flash. Glancing at the visitor, Jian Wushuang was stunned. "Mr. Qingzhe, why are you here?" It was none other than Qingzhe, the man he fought a day ago. Your ability is not below me, so never mind the honorable addresses, just call me Qingzhe. Qingzhe seemed to be very easygoing. "Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord, come with me." "Where to?" asked Jian Wushuang. "Master Scorpion King wants to see you, he asked me to bring you there," explained Qingzhe. Jian Wushuang was a little stunned. Mr. Scorpion King, the grand ultimate god of Crimson Stone Fort, wanted to see him? Perhaps it was because of the battle that happened? Although he was perplexed, Jian Wushuang still went with Qingzhe immediately. Chapter 2639. Sacred Palace. In the majestic palace hall, the bullish battle armor-clad middle-aged man Scorpion King sat up straight on the throne. "Master Scorpion King." Qingzhe brought Jian Wushuang into the palace hall and bowed respectfully. Scorpion King raised his head and glanced at Qingzhe. "Leave us." "Aye." Qingzhe turned around right away and left. Only Jian Wushuang and Scorpion King were left in the palace hall. Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord, Jin Ying. Scorpion King's eyes stayed on Jian Wushuang's face while wearing a faint smile. "I looked at your information just now and learned that you haven't been the Territorial Lord for very long, only a dozen years. It has only been around 20 years if I include the time you first made a name for yourself in the Northern Darkstar continent and that you were only a primary-level ultimate god 20 years ago. You have jumped from a primary-level ultimate god and become a peak Earth ultimate god with battle strength comparable to a heaven ultimate god within merely 20 years. Your cultivation speed is truly terrifying." He appeared to be calm as usual as Jian Wushuang listened. Many had known about him on the Northern Darkstar continent, hence he was not at all surprised that Scorpion King did as well. "Master Scorpion King, I'm just slightly faster in absorbing and cultivating divine power compared to others. On top of that, I have enough resources to cultivate, hence my level could go up so fast," said Jian Wushuang. "I know that." The Scorpion King nodded. There were many in the Northern Darkstar continent who guessed that you relied on absorbing huge amounts of external divine power like cultivating and absorbing divine powers from primordial stones to increase your cultivation level. This method is not uncommon in the ancient god domain, but there's a criterion for those who bravely use this method, which is to ensure their law and principle understanding are compatible. You won't only be unable to make a breakthrough even after accumulating enough divine power without sufficient law and principle understanding, you may even reach a bottleneck. In addition, excessive reliance on external force to upgrade one's cultivation will affect one's foundations quite a bit. Normally, anybody who chooses to do this will have absolute confidence in himself. I noticed your understanding of laws and sword principle is way above your cultivation level as I watched your fight with Qingzhe yesterday. You're only an Earth ultimate god, but your understanding of space-time law, transmigration law, and sword principle are comparable to a heaven ultimate god. I would even say it's higher than regular heaven ultimate gods. Your foundation is also incredibly strong and unaffected from using those external resources. You have progressed so much while still able to keep your foundation intact in only 20 years. It shows that you're a true genius. Jian Wushuang's heart was calm and did not get excited by Scorpion King's praise altogether. He knew that he was merely relying on his perfect foundation as a perfect chaotic creature to fearlessly ingesting external divine power and increase his divine power. His foundation was indestructible, not to mention his understanding of laws and sword principles had exceeded his current cultivation level. All those reasons enabled him to make a breakthrough without encountering any bottleneck. Hence the side effects of absorbing external divine power did not shake his foundation at all. Jian Yi, geniuses like you are rare even in the Golden Crow 9 realms, not to mention our Danyang holy domain. You could have joined any of the great powers if you truly so wished, such as Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, who only pick the cream of the crop. The resources you can get will be a lot more if you had joined them, and you may have progressed even faster. However, those great powers in the 9 realms of Golden Crows like Dragon Phoenix Pavilion are very powerful and have many genius disciples which will have spread thin the resources available for sure. Therefore, many geniuses won't receive the kind of nurturing they deserve and will rather join slightly lesser powers to cultivate under such situations. For example, the sacred palace in our Crimson Stone Fort. Jian Wushuang had completely understood the reason he was invited upon reaching that point of Scorpion King's speech. This Scorpion King is trying to persuade me to join Crimson Stone Fort, huh? Jian Wushuang was amused. Jian Yi, you may not know what the sacred palace is, so let me explain to you. Scorpion King smiled and said, Sacred Palace was built by the previous fort master, Crimson Stone Saint, who was also our founder. Its function is for nurturing genius disciples, an indisputable concentration camp of geniuses. Many of the geniuses that appeared in any stellar region within the Danyang holy domain will choose to join the Sacred Palace. Our new Fort Master is taking Sacred Palace especially seriously now that the old Fort Master is no longer around anymore, with 70% of our resources being allocated to the Sacred Palace. You'll receive maximum nurturing with your talent if you enter the Sacred Palace with resources comparable to those offered by sects like Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, giving you a lot of room for growth. The Scorpion King stared at Jian Wushuang after his speech. Jian Wushuang fell into deep thoughts. He had no interest in Sacred Palace but heard the undertone of Scorpion King's standing. Crimson Stone Fort was in a situation where there were multiple factions within that were causing all kinds of internal conflicts. He could tell from the way Scorpion King spoke that he was probably in the same camp as the new Fort Master, Yin Suer. Jian Wushuang had inquired about that while on the way here with Qing Zhe, who gave the same answer. Qing Zhe, Lord Scorpion King, and the many heaven ultimate god that arrived were followers of the new Fort Master, Yin Suer's faction, with Ji Nihong being the only person from another faction. That was why the Scorpion King had such a deep dislike towards Ji Nihong. Jian Wushuang finally said, Lord Scorpion King, I appreciate your thoughts but I think it'll pass. Scorpion King frowned and sighed in his mind. He was prepared for that, as he knew very well that the Crimson Stone Fort was not what it used to be, and neither was the Sacred Palace. Although Yin Suer truly put in more effort to train the Sacred Palace's geniuses, the outcome was less than satisfying. Although his speech sounded fancy and attractive, anybody who knew any better about the situation in Danyang Holy Domain would understand the position Crimson Stone Fort was in. A genius like Jian Wushuang was more than qualified to join top-tier powers like Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and get the best maximized training. Why would he choose to join the Sacred Palace? Scorpion King recognized Jian Wushuang's incredible talent and was merely trying his luck to see if he could induct him into the Sacred Palace and become a great help to Yin Suer in the future. However, Chapter 2640. Masterstroke. Jian Wushuang suddenly said, Master Scorpion King. Although I'm not particularly interested in joining the Sacred Palace, I'll still be heading to Crimson Stone Fort in due time to meet the new Fort Master. Oh! Scorpion King was surprised. I wonder if you recognize this token I have here? Jian Wushuang showed him a token. The token was passed to him by Crimson Stone Saint's remaining consciousness while in the Saint's tomb. Crimson Stone Saint had reminded him that he could present her with the token if he ever met Sewer in the future, and she would then know who he was. The Scorpion King did not notice anything special at first upon seeing the token. However, his eyes enlarged after a short moment. Old Fort Master. The Old Fort Master's aura. This token is from the Old Fort Master. Scorpion King's voice trembled with excitement as he stared toward Jian Wushuang. So you do recognize it, huh? Jian Wushuang smiled. Jian Yi, how did the Old Fort Master's token fall into your hand? Don't tell me you're his personal disciple? Scorpion King asked a series of questions. Personal disciple? Jian Wushuang shook his head. I'm not, I just made a deal with him to return a favor since I've benefited a lot from him. A deal which I shall do all I can to help his daughter, the new Fort Master of Crimson Stone Fort Sewer, once I'm sufficiently strong. Is that so? Scorpion King was happy and surprised. Turns out you're the help sent by the Old Fort Master. I won't even have to try and rope you in since that's the case. However, your current abilities are a little too weak. Jian Wushuang broke out laughing. My current abilities are indeed a bit low right now, but Lord Scorpion King, do you not recall that I only spent 20 years to make a breakthrough to peak Earth Ultimate God from primary level Ultimate God? I'll naturally go to the new Fort Master and give her my all to resolve Crimson Stone Fort's crisis once I'm sufficiently capable. It's probably fine if it's only 20 or 100 years, as the Fort Master could perhaps hold it together, but I'm afraid she won't be able to hold the fort if you need a few hundred years. Scorpion King frowned. You mean to say that the situation in Crimson Stone Fort is so bad it can't even endure for a few hundred years? Jian Wushuang was frowning as well. Crimson Stone Saint had fallen for a few 100,000 years at that moment as far as he knew. Although Crimson Stone Fort had been in an unusual crisis, it had persevered for so many years. How could it not survive for another few hundred years? Was it due to a big turn of events that had befallen Danyang Holy Domain? The situation of Crimson Stone Fort is a lot worse than what people think. The Fort Master has been trying her hardest to hold everything together. However, we're now on the brink of crumbling. Scorpion King sighed. Jian Yi, the old Fort Master, had never been wrong about people, as it's not easy to live up to his standards. He must have believed that you can be of great help to the Fort Master since he passed you the token and made a deal with you which greatly benefited you. However, you'll need to increase your abilities as fast as possible. On that note, please let me know if you need anything that can help increase your abilities. Jian Wushuang was moved from listening to the Scorpion King's incredible hopeful words. Perhaps it was because Crimson Stone Saint had specially sent him, or he saw Jian Wushuang's incredible cultivation speed. The Scorpion King had decided as long as Jian Wushuang grew fast enough, he would be of immense help to Sewer and might even change the entire situation. Therefore, Scorpion King was willing to do everything he could to help him upgrade his abilities. Jian Wushuang, who was scratching his nose, did not hold back and directly said, Master Scorpion King, you know that I've been increasing my cultivation level by relying on external resources and shall keep doing so moving forward. Therefore, what I need the most right now are divine elixir pills to raise my level. I need as many as you can provide. Divine elixir pills, huh? Scorpion King pondered for a short while before immediately waving his hand and bringing out an interspatial ring. I have 50 divine elixir pills here, you can have them for now. As for the rest, I shall report to the Fort Master and have her get you more as soon as I return to Crimson Stone Fort. However, divine elixir pills are not primordial stones, so we won't have too many in stock after all. Besides, the Fort Master isn't the only person making decisions in Crimson Stone Fort, as there are various factions. Even the Fort Master may not be able to provide you many divine elixir pills after trying her very best. Jian Wushuang took Scorpion King's interspatial ring and had a quick look. He nodded and gratefully said, Thank you, Lord Scorpion King. Don't mention it, we're under the Fort Master's faction since you're sent by the old Fort Master. We'll naturally go the greatest length to help you increase your abilities. Scorpion King smiled and sat down on his throne. Oh yes, Jian Yi, I saw you using a sword formation while fighting Qing Zhe, which seems to be very potent. Yes, the sword formation was something I obtained in the Star-Picking Pavilion's auction. A transmigration sword formation that Sword Lord Tong Xen left behind with merely the first 4 stages. I had spent 40 million primordial stones on it, said Jian Wushuang. Transmigration sword formation. No wonder it contains such terrifying samsara strength. Scorpion King smiled as he looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Yi, you're well versed in the sword principle and studied space-time law. I'm sorry that I can't really help you with both of these. You may not know this, but I study transmigration law too. Oh. Jian Wushuang was surprised. I have quite a bit of insight on transmigration law and even created a masterstroke that has the same effect as your sword formation, which I can show you, said Scorpion King. Masterstroke. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed. A grand ultimate god who was deeply skilled in transmigration law showing his masterstroke right before him. He was doing it to let Jian Wushuang observe it firsthand and study it. It was a once-in-lifetime opportunity for Jian Wushuang. Watch closely. Scorpion King smiled before pointing slowly towards the void ahead of him. A huge wave of samsara strength swept out of his body all of a sudden. The samsara strength began to vigorously fill the space as the huge palace hall was being crushed to bits. Jian Wushuang and the Scorpion King soon found themselves in the boundless void. 9 gigantic black holes appeared in the void at that moment. The 9 black holes were formed from samsara strength, with each of them containing immense samsara strength. The 9 black holes moved at high speed in the void like 9 gigantic dark stars under the Scorpion King's manipulation as each of them bombarded the void. The 9 dark stars were perfectly coordinated and displayed incredibly terrifying power. Chapter 2641. Murderous Motive, the 9 Stars. Looking at the 9 stars that were surrounding him, something dawned on Jian Wushuang. The transmigration sword formation that he operated controlled 9 infernal blood divine swords at once. The infernal blood divine swords could all join together as one, as well as making individual attacks, just like the 9 stars. However, the 9 stars' usage of samsara strength and their coordination with each other provided Jian Wushuang a completely new understanding. The Crimson Stone Fort experts at the mineral vein were stunned by the power of 9 stars when Scorpion King performed the master stroke. That's 9 asteroids. Master Scorpion King's most powerful master stroke, 9 asteroids. Are we under attack? Doesn't seem so. This master stroke isn't unleashed for a fight with an expert. It looks more like a demonstration for someone. Look at the center of the 9 stars. There's a man. Isn't that the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord? Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord? The Heaven Ultimate Gods were all surprised and confused. They could already see that Scorpion King was performing his most powerful move as a demonstration for someone, and the observer was none other than the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. However, how did the Territorial Lord come to have such a relationship with Master Scorpion King that he was willing to treat him with such honor? A while later, the 9 stars gradually dispersed. How do you feel, Jenny? Scorpion King looked over. Pretty good, thank you very much, Master Scorpion King. Jian Wushuang thanked him again. It's really nothing, I hope it helps. You may go. Scorpion King waved his hand. Jian Wushuang bowed at Scorpion King and then left for his campground. After his return, Jian Wushuang sat in a lotus position in his penthouse, feeling really moved. Scorpion King gave him quite a bit of benefit in that encounter. First of all, there were the 50 divine elixir pills. Although Jian Wushuang truly wanted to have divine elixir pills, 50 of them was not enough for him to break through to high-class Earth Ultimate God from primary class. Nevertheless, it was still immensely helpful for his divine power accumulation. The most important thing, though, was the master stroke that Scorpion King demonstrated. The 9 stars that were morphed from samsara strength contained transmigration law that was very deep. The trajectory that the 9 stars formed and the battle tactic were all truly worth Jian Wushuang's detailed studies. Very soon, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to study. Peace had once again returned to the blood gem mineral vein. Word about royal blood gem was not leaked and Jian Wushuang did not encounter any trouble. On top of that, seeing how well he was treated by Scorpion King, the people from Crimson Stone Fort knew that he was highly regarded by Scorpion King. Hence, even Ji Nihong had been behaving himself, not creating any more conflicts with Jian Wushuang and his official army. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. In addition to the 2 years prior to that, the blood gem mineral vein had been extracted for 7 years and was finally exhausted. In the Grand Palace Hall, Master Scorpion King, according to early statistics, the blood gem that we have mined in the past 7 years has amounted to 3.7 billion pounds. There are also a few million pounds higher quality ones among them. Qing Zhe reported respectfully before Scorpion King. 3.7 billion pounds? The numbers sound astonishing even for Scorpion King. His face betrayed a stroke of joy upon hearing that number. The market rate of blood gem is 10 primordial stones per pound. The 3.7 billion is worth 37 billion primordial stones, and that is a huge income for Crimson Stone Fort. With that amount, Her Excellency the Fort Master could have quite a load off her shoulder. Scorpion King smiled and ordered, Qing Zhe, pass down the order to have them gather all the blood gem into an interspatial ring and pass it to me. Recuperate and regroup tonight. We shall take off to Crimson Stone Fort by the break of dawn. Aye. Qing Zhe took the order. Oh yes, do inform the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord and his official army about our departure tomorrow, reminded Scorpion King. Qing Zhe nodded and left to pass down the order. At that moment, many black-clad figures gathered in a forest not too far from the blood gem mineral vein. At a glance, there were no less than 40 men. We've gotten confirmation that the divine demons who were mining blood gems at the mineral vein have already been dismissed and the Crimson Stone Fort people will be departing tomorrow. Looks like the blood gem mineral vein has been emptied by them, said a sharp-browed old man dressed in a black robe with his lowered voice. It's been 7 years. It took tens of thousands of divine demons to mine for a total of 7 years to empty the mineral vein. How much blood gems were there in the mineral vein? There has to be at least 3 billion pounds, yes? A man in purple hair smiled demonically. As per our agreement, you and I should get half each. No problem, but we have to think of a way to steal the blood gems from Scorpion King. He's not one to be simply messed with, said the sharp-browed old man. He's definitely not one to mess with. Nobody among the primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods in Danyang Holy Domain is an equal match to him when it comes to one-on-one battle. But this time our sects are working together, we have a total of 4 Grand Ultimate God. Regardless of how skillful Scorpion King is, there's not much he can do but to be slaughtered. And he is the most trusted right-hand man of the current Fort Master Insuer. His death would be a devastating blow to Insuer, and she wouldn't be able to suppress the other factions in Crimson Stone Fort. By then, their conflict will probably blow up. All we have to do is to collect our benefits while they're at it, said the purple-haired man. True that. The sharp-browed old man smiled faintly. All right, let's not waste our time talking. Let's just stick to our plan and take action tonight, said the purple-haired man. Very well. The sharp-browed old man nodded seriously. Right then, the party of 40 began to move. It was midnight, the night sky could not be more beautiful. The mountains where the blood gem mineral vein was were brightly lit up. Official army officers gathered in small groups, chatting casually. The mineral vein has finally been mined completely. We can finally return to Northern Darkstar Continent tomorrow. Thanks. Guarding this place for 7 years was a boring job, watching those people mining every day. So glad that it's finally over. It was rather boring, but we've earned a lot though. The 2 rewards that His Excellency the Territorial Lord gave us alone were a lot of primordial stones to split among us. That's already a high earning. That's true. Our current Territorial Lord is a lot more generous than our previous one. Needless to say, his ability is also a lot stronger than our previous Territorial Lord. They're simply not on the same level. Naturally, we can't compare them at all. Chapter 2642, Upheaval. Jian Wushuang was gliding by the void around them and overheard the soldiers' conversation by chance. Jian Wushuang smiled. It's because I've gained great benefit from the blood gem mineral vein, especially royal blood gem. Otherwise, I can't afford to be so generous. He would not mistreat his men, but those soldiers were only peak divine demons or regular ultimate gods after all. Even the commanders were only peak ultimate gods, hence those primordial stones that Jian Wushuang gave them were quite plentiful. Tomorrow will be the day to say bye to this mineral vein. Jian Wushuang gave out a slight sigh as well. There was not much for him to worry about moving onward since the royal blood gem's secret had not leaked. Even if someone talked about it after many years, his abilities would certainly have been at an even higher level where he could protect himself. Jian Wushuang casually glided. Suddenly, ring! A bolt of energy wave came from not far away. It was too vague that none of the official army soldiers reacted to it, but Jian Wushuang immediately sensed it. This wave, Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Enemy attack. Immediately be prepared. Jian Wushuang shouted urgently as his voice resonated between the mountains where the mineral vein was located. Many official army soldiers at the mineral vein, including those Crimson Stone Fort experts, were immediately alerted at once. Meanwhile, the faces of those few black-robed men who gathered together at the place where the energy wave started turned grim upon hearing the shout. Damn, I thought there's no heaven ultimate god left in this area. How could someone discover us? Don't care, let's move now. All right. Boom boom. The vague energy wave stopped hiding as huge energy burst out. The energy burst did not only go in one direction but spread out to 5 other directions in the mineral vein as well. A blurry gray light immediately began to expand in all 6 directions, which covered the entire mineral vein. The entire blood gem mineral vein was shrouded in a gray light within only the blink of an eye. Is this a magic formation? The bullish black battle armor donning Scorpion King had already appeared way up in the air while looking at the mineral vein that had already been shrouded in the gray magic formation with an unhappy expression. He waved his large hand and charged fiercely with his gigantic fist at it like a huge mountain. The Scorpion King's punch contained the extremely powerful energy of a grand ultimate god. However, it only slightly shook gray magic formation when the punch landed, which very soon became still again. What powerful magic formation! Scorpion King squinted slightly as his cold voice suddenly resonated. Who are you losers? Show yourselves. Scorpion King's loud command swept in all directions with incredible force. Ha, Scorpion King. No need for that big temper. Hee, Scorpion King. It's been a while, you're still the same, huh? 2 voices were heard one after another before several black-robed men immediately glided out of the gray restrictive shield's edge from 6 different directions. A sharp-browed old man and a purple-haired man whom the 2 voices belonged to were leading the group. Bai Tu and Li Qianji. So it's the 2 of you. The Scorpion King looked at both of them with grim-looking eyes. The sharp-browed old man's name was Bai Tu from the Divine Demon sect, while the purple-haired man was Li Qianji from Life and Death Tower. Both of them were grand ultimate god experts which the Scorpion King had got acquainted with in the past. Other than the 2, there were 40 over black-robed men with each of them projecting the aura of a heaven ultimate god. The terrifying lineup consisted of 2 grand ultimate gods and over 40 heaven ultimate gods. We're in big trouble. The Crimson Stone Fort's heaven ultimate gods had already gathered together with a worried expression. Chapter 2643. Kill them all. The 2 of you want to kill me? A trace of disdain flashed in the Scorpion King's eyes. Although Bai Tu and Li Qianji were grand ultimate gods, their strength was only average at most. Scorpion King could easily battle 2 such grand ultimate gods without suffering a disadvantage. The 2 of us are certainly not enough, but what if she joins us? Li Qianji cracked a strange smile. A black-robed cultivator's aura suddenly rose to the grand ultimate god level and was even stronger than Bai Tu and Li Qianji from among the group of black-robed people. Long time no see, Scorpion King. An icy cold voice came from a blue-haired woman who had a cold and desolate appearance. Gu Ji. The Scorpion King's complexion finally changed. He did not care much when it was only Bai Tu and Li Qianji, but it was a different matter with the blue-haired Guji around. Although Guji was only a primary-level Grand Ultimate God, she was extremely strong among those of similar level and was not much weaker than the Scorpion King. Scorpion King had fought Guji many years ago and only gained a slight upper hand. Scorpion King, give the interspatial ring containing those blood gems in your hands to me, said the blue-haired Guji indifferently. Dream on. Scorpion King gave her a cold stare before he instantly became aggressive. Those blood gems were of great value and meant a lot for the Crimson Stone Fort. The pressure on Yin Sewer could be relieved quickly upon obtaining the blood gems. The Scorpion King would never hand over this batch of blood gems in vain for that reason alone. I can see that you won't accept the loss. We'll just have to kill first if that's the case, said Guji coldly. Go kill them. Spare no one. Li Qianji coldly said. The killing intent in those more than 40 heaven ultimate gods from Divine Demons sect and Life and Death Tower surged upon hearing her command. Kill. Kill them all. Ha. Divine Demon sect, let's see who kills more. The earth-shattering screams and yelling resounded as more than 40 heaven ultimate gods attacked like hungry wolves. The Crimson Stone Fort had only sent a dozen heaven ultimate gods, which caused the combat power between both groups to be disproportionate. Crimson Stone Fort could only do their best to defend and resist the attacks. Oops! There's a big problem. The official army felt their scalps numbed upon seeing the combat powers of 40 heaven ultimate gods. They knew they were no match for those heaven ultimate gods. Retreat! Retreat! Get back to the edge! Jian Wushuang immediately ordered. The official army retreated without any hesitation. They never wanted to participate in the war, and neither was there any need for them to do so. The Divine Demon sect and the Life and Death Tower were not targeting them after all. However, the combat power between both groups was disproportionate when the battle began, with many heaven ultimate gods from Divine Demon sect and the Life and Death Tower had no opponents, so they started targeting the official army. Official army? Humph, they must have secretly gained a lot of benefits from guarding this area for so long and probably also have a lot of blood gems on them. Let's kill them too. Kill them all. Several heaven ultimate gods immediately chased after the official army. Damn it. Song Heng and the other commanders panicked when they saw that. Quick, get into formation and block their attacks. Song Heng let out a stern cry as 4 official army commanders took action together while they continued to retreat. 4 gushes of powers erupted, but each of those powers only reached the level of a high-level Earth Ultimate God. Such power level was simply a joke in the eyes of Heaven Ultimate Gods. Funny. One of the Heaven Ultimate Gods sneered and instantly routed the 4 powers with just a hand wave. There was a terrifying power acting on the 4 army formations at the same time. Although the impact received by the 4 army formations was equally shared, every soldier in the 4,000 troops, including the 4 commanders, grunted upon being hit by the impact. Some of them with weaker physical protective abilities had traces of blood dripping from the corners of their mouths. They're just like ants. Kill them all. The more than 3 meters tall burly old man stretched out his palm and gathered a surge of divine power in the void before him. A huge dark cloud was formed and covered a large number of soldiers below in the blink of an eye. The terrifying power contained in the dark cloud frightened every soldier and commander, caused them to fall into despair. That kind of power was not something they could resist using their military formation. In the nick of time, boom! A huge black all pierced through the void and with its terrifying power and instantly bombarded the dark cloud. The dark cloud, which was completely formed using divine power, obviously could not withstand the attack's impact before it collapsed and dissipated. What? The burly old man was surprised and immediately looked at the void next to him. There was a golden-robed young man with a long sword standing in the void, coldly staring back at him. An Earth Ultimate God? The burly old man frowned. An Earth Ultimate God blocked the blow he had just released? Territorial Lord. It's the Territorial Lord. The Territorial Lord has taken action. The official army soldiers were very pleasantly surprised. What are you doing? Why aren't you standing back? Jian Wushuang rebuked in a low voice. Yes, yes. The official army knew what Jian Wushuang meant and retreated to the battlefield's edge under the guidance of several commanders such as Song Heng. The burly old man, along with another 2 heaven ultimate gods who attempted to attack the official army earlier, did not chase after them but gathered together. The 3 stood side by side while looking at Jian Wushuang with interest. Territorial Lord? You're the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord, right? You're just a peak Earth ultimate god, but you can parry off and defeat the attack of a heaven ultimate god. How interesting. He was displaying a sword formation, right? The transmigration power in the formation was so strong. I heard that someone bought the transmigration sword formation manual created by the sword Lord Tong Xan with 40 million primordial stones in an auction held by the Star Picking Pavilion not long ago. It seems that person was the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. An Earth ultimate god who managed to become a Territorial Lord and have 40 million primordial stones. He must be rich. He must have also gained a lot of benefits from the blood gem mineral vein in his Northern Darkstar territory. I'm afraid that his current net worth is much more than any of us. Heaven ultimate god. Won't his wealth be ours after we kill him? The 3 heaven ultimate gods grinned at each other. Chapter 2644. 3 Great Heaven Ultimate Gods. 3 Great Heaven Ultimate Gods. Fortunately, they are only primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods. Jian Wushuang's face sank upon looking at the 3 Great Heaven Ultimate Gods in front of him but remained fearless. He was just a peak Ultimate God 7 years ago, yet able to kill Yuan Lei, a powerful Heaven Ultimate God who was good at the Vitality Law. His strength had improved by leaps and bounds compared to 7 years ago. He made a breakthrough from the peak Ultimate God realm to the primary-level Earth Ultimate God. His understanding of laws and sword principles had also improved a lot, so did his divine power. 3 Great Heaven Ultimate Gods were not enough to frighten him. Jian Wushuang gave them a death stare as majestic golden divine power gathered behind him. A 5,000 feet high golden god shadow which exuded a world-shocking magnificent aura emerged in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang also used the divine god of punishment when he fought Qing Zhe 5 years ago. However, his gold god shadow was only 3,000 feet at that time. The additional 2,000 feet which increased his golden god shadow to 5,000 feet gave him an additional power boost. The 7 stars' strength in his body came pouring out. The aura in his body also crazily shot up at a terrifying speed. His initial peak Earth Ultimate God's divine power disguise under the Black Stone's influence climbed rapidly and reached the very limits of peak Earth Ultimate God in the blink of an eye. It had exceeded the Earth Ultimate God's range. Heaven Ultimate God. Jian Wushuang's divine power breath had been elevated to the Heaven Ultimate God level. This kid is weird. How come? He must perform some kind of secret technique that raised his cultivation realm. The 3 Great Heaven Ultimate Gods stood surprised side by side upon seeing Jian Wushuang's divine power breath climbing up to the level of a Heaven Ultimate God. The 3 of us should take action together, and whoever grabbed his interspatial ring first gets it, suggested the 3-yard-tall burly old man. All right. No problem. The other 2 nodded in agreement. The 3 Great Heaven Ultimate Gods suddenly took a shot at the same time. Boom, boom, boom. 3 shots of terrifying divine power breath erupted from the trio. The burly old man among the 3, who was originally only 3 yards tall, soared to 10 yards as his divine body rapidly grew while wielding a huge 5 to 6 yards long golden stone staff with the width of a huge bucket. The staff was continuously erupting majestic divine power while being held in the burly old man's hands. The second bald young man Heaven Ultimate God was holding a purple sickle which seemed bewitching like his divine power breath. The last Heaven Ultimate God was a handsome cold-looking man who had a sword mark on his brow and wielded a blood sword. Kill! The 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods concurrently attacked. 3 magnificent divine power breaths headed straight at Jian Wushuang. War! Jian Wushuang made a powerful cry of command, and the 9 infernal crimson divine swords floating beside him instantly combined to form the perfect transmigration sword formation. A huge black divine sword pierced through the void and shot out. I'll handle this sword formation. The bald young man laughed before slicing down the purple sickle in his hand like a purple moon colliding against the black divine sword coming through the void. Clang. The purple moon disappeared after the crisp sound. The black divine sword shook slightly before being thrown backward, but soon it stopped and continued moving forward. Interesting. There was a strange luster in the bald young man's eyes as he went forth again to confront the transmigration sword formation. The handsome man with a sword mark on his eyebrows also took action at the same time. A large number of apparitions emerged at the same time. The handsome man learned space-time law and seemed quite accomplished with the appearance of more than 300 apparitions. More than 300 apparitions were densely packed together such that Jian Wushuang could not tell which was the handsome man's real body. A breath of cold aura shot past. Right here. Jian Wushuang immediately turned his head and discovered the handsome man had appeared beside him. The blood sword in his hand drove a bloody sword shadow that was coming down toward Jian Wushuang's throat from a special angle in the void. He aimed to cut off Jian Wushuang's head. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and unsheathed his blood mountain sword from its sheath. Jian Wushuang's sword skill was much faster than the handsome man's, as a large number of sword shadows were sent out immediately like a sword river that completely drowned the handsome man after warding off his sword attack. Let's see who has better sword skills. A smile crept at the corner of the handsome man's mouth. Endless bloodlight completely turned the void around him into a sea of blood in the next second. The handsome man's appearance was similar to a death god bathed in the sea of blood. A huge, oppressive, profound level sword world suddenly shocked Jian Wushuang. The handsome man then performed a strange, cold, and amazingly fast sword technique that manifested in the sea of blood. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang seems fearless and displayed the full potential of his sword world. Although it was only at merit level, his full-strength sword world performance had forced the handsome man's sword world to recede while Jian Wushuang wielded his blood mountain sword at the same time. If the handsome man's sword technique was strange and cold like a dark assassin, Jian Wushuang's sword technique was swift and tyrannical like a domineering sword king. The two were frantically firing attacks at each other, each with his advantages while unable to threaten either side. Suddenly, "Go away!" Someone shouted fiercely before the burly old man who soared to a height of 10 yards lifted his huge golden stone staff that was packed with terrifying power. The golden stone staff was like a huge golden sun as it fiercely slammed right down Jian Wushuang. The handsome man was aware of it much earlier and managed to move aside. However, Jian Wushuang, who was oppressed by the golden stone staff, found himself immobilized. Jian Wushuang scowled as his blood mountain sword silently attacked, causing the world and space-time to seemingly completely overlap. A weird and extremely powerful sword shadow imperceptibly fleeted past. Space-time sword technique, 6th form, overlapping shadow. Chapter 2645. Crisis. A loud twang resounded. The tall old man's golden stone staff had great momentum from its heavy mass and the long charging swinging period. Although Jian Wushuang's overlapping shadow's first form was extremely powerful, it was considered a space-time sword technique which emphasized speed greatly and was naturally at a disadvantage from the energy perspective. Jian Wushuang's body sunk after the clash as an immense force was passed through his hands onto his divine body but was easily blocked by his physical protective capabilities. The Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord is truly something. The 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods frowned from that simple challenge. Although the fight was 3-on-1, they only gained a very slight upper hand. Looks like Heaven Ultimate Gods aren't all that, scoffed Jian Wushuang. What did he just say? Kill him. The 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods were incredibly angered and no longer held back and unleashed their full abilities. Although Jian Wushuang was facing 3 opponents at once, he could take care of the bald young man by controlling his transmigration sword formation by rearranging and disassembling it time and again with great finesse. As for the other 2, he could deal with them head-to-head using his understanding of sword skills and space-time law. Even though he was slightly disadvantaged during the fight, His physical protective capabilities did not allow the three heaven ultimate gods to even injure him, hence they could do nothing to him. This kid, how can we not even touch him with three heaven ultimate gods working together? This little northern Darkstar territory has such a genius? The three heaven ultimate gods were incredibly stunned and angered, but there was nothing they could do about Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang could fend off their attacks, his people were greatly disadvantaged in the remaining battlefield areas. Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower sent out more than 40 heaven ultimate gods, but Crimson Stone Fort had only a dozen of them, which was a quarter of their opponent's force. Every Crimson Stone Fort heaven ultimate god had to fight against 3 or 4 experts of the same level. How could that be possible? Only in a short moment, the Crimson Stone Fort was almost completely defeated with 1/3 of their heaven ultimate gods slaughtered. The rest of them were barely hanging in there, and perhaps it would not be long before all of them died there. Jian Wushuang squinted slightly. During his battle against the 3 heaven ultimate gods, he had taken in everything that was happening on the battlefield while planning for his next step. Crimson Stone Fort's faction was in an absolute crisis without a doubt. Meanwhile, his official army and himself at that moment were considered on the same side as Crimson Stone Fort, which placed them in a really dangerous position. Jian Wushuang thought to himself, the difference between both sides is really too large, making it impossible to fight head-to-head. The most probable move right now is to break open the surrounding magic formation and escape. However, the Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower seemed to be well prepared with the magic formation they had set up way beforehand being extremely sturdy. Jian Wushuang could tell at a glance that it was not something heaven ultimate gods could break open, and neither could himself, of course. The only person on Crimson Stone Fort's side who might be capable of breaking the magic formation and giving them a chance to live was the Scorpion King. However, the Scorpion King was also in a non-favorable situation. He was then fighting against 3 grand ultimate gods from Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower. Among the 3 grand ultimate gods, Bai Tu and Li Qinji were considered slightly easier to deal with, but Gu Ji was incredibly overpowering and placed immense pressure on him. The Scorpion King was already using his masterstroke 9 asteroids. The 9 gigantic asteroids appeared between heaven and earth as they lashed out under the Scorpion King's control. Each of them had terrifying energy, but he was still badly suppressed as it was an unfair battle of 3 versus 1 after all. Damn it. The Scorpion King shouted non-stop with his bloodshot eyes. He could also see what was happening on the surrounding battlefield and understood the situation they were in. Scorpion King. You don't have to go through all this if you just pass over the blood gems earlier, right? However, you just can't help but act tough, and now you can't keep the blood gems on top of having to die here as well, sneered Li Qianji. I still won't let you have it easy even if I have to die. Scorpion King shouted sternly and furiously. He flipped his giant hand and took out a foul-smelling blood-red pill while looking at it with a crazed expression in his eyes before swallowing the pill without hesitation. The Scorpion King's already overpowering and abnormal divine power aura shot even higher as the pill went down. In just a split second, it had shot up to a level close to a high-level grand ultimate god. Is that the Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pill? Gu Ji's face turned grim. Looks like he's going crazy. Li Qianji's grin became wider. The Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pill was a kind of pill that could greatly increase one's abilities in a short period. However, the pill's side effects were horrifically strong, such that it would greatly affect one's foundation and cultivation. Although the Scorpion King would not die after consuming it, his cultivation would likely drop from primary level Grand Ultimate God to Heaven Ultimate God. It would take a very long recultivation period to return to his previous level. Therefore, nobody would dare take the pill under normal circumstances. However, it was apparent that the Scorpion King had no other option but to take the pill as his last resort. Boom boom boom. A terrifying aura that was twice what it previously was suddenly burst out as the Scorpion King's face looked horrifying like a fierce beast. The 9 asteroids he was controlling immediately surged in energy and lashed out in a frenzy. Careful! Gu Ji warned. Although Bai Tu and Li Qianji's expressions were still ridiculing the Scorpion King, they were not being careless at all and stepped backward. They dared not touch the asteroids attacking them. Even Gu Ji had retreated under the Scorpion King's terrifying battle strength. The Scorpion King did not go after them after making the three retreated. He instead turned around and jumped against the gray magic formation that shrouded the entire void. No! Does he want to destroy the magic formation? Gu Ji and the other two were shocked. Although the Scorpion King looked insane with nothing to lose, he was extremely calm in his mind and knew that continuous fighting would cost everyone their life. Therefore, he decided to rely on the Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pill's effect to crush the magic formation. Break it open. The Scorpion King hysterically commanded the 9 asteroids as 3 of them suddenly grew bigger dramatically before crashing against the gray magic formation. Chapter 2646, I'll Help You Boom. The giant gray magic formation began to tremble violently upon being bombarded by the 3 black asteroids as though it was about to collapse. However, it only lasted for a short while before matters began to die down again. What? The Scorpion King's face turned pale upon looking at the unscathed gray magic formation, showing his desperation. He had done his best by performing his most powerful technique and even swallowed the Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pill. However, he still could not break the magic formation in the end. The people from Crimson Stone Fort, even Jian Wushuang and his official army, would have no hope to escape upon his failure. That scared me a little. Good thing the magic formation isn't broken. Otherwise, he could have run off. Li Qianji immediately laughed maniacally. He failed just by a tiny margin. If his offensive energy was a little stronger, like 10 or 20%, he could have perhaps broken the magic formation. It's too bad the Scorpion King has shown us his very limits with no possibility for his energy to further increase, sneered Gu Ji. The Scorpion King and all those Crimson Stone Fort disciples can't escape with the magic formation still here. They must all die. Bai Tu's voice resonated arrogantly. The Scorpion King and the surviving Crimson Stone Fort's Heaven Ultimate Gods fell silent upon hearing his words. Their faces had betrayed them and shown their hopelessness. The hopelessness filled their hearts such that they even lost their motivation to fend off attacks from their enemies. However, Jian Wushuang was not excluded in their hopeless feeling group. Not only did Jian Wushuang not feel hopeless, but his eyes were also shining with a sharp light. On the contrary, he saw an opportunity to survive. Lord Scorpion King, your strike just now had indeed shaken the magic formation such that I can even feel it was about to collapse and barely blocked the offense in the end. Your attack energy would have completely crushed the magic formation with a slight increase in power. As for the energy, the sharp light within Jian Wushuang's eyes became brighter and brighter. He had decided in his mind. Stop struggling since you can't escape anyways, kid. That's right, just be good and let us take you. Mr. Bai Tu from the Divine Demon Sect may let you live because of your pretty remarkable talents if you pass your interspatial ring to us. However, death will be your end if you keep struggling. The 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods who surrounded Jian Wushuang were laughing presumptuously. Although they could not touch Jian Wushuang at that moment, other Heaven Ultimate Gods, high-level Grand Ultimate Gods, and even peak Grand Ultimate Gods would soon arrive without them needing to do much on their part. Jian Wushuang would surely die when that happens. However, Jian Wushuang sneered as well right at that moment as on his body. Ring! A flash of golden light suddenly surged from the golden robe he was wearing, which was none other than the golden glass armor. The golden-colored armor covered his entire bodice surface within only a second. 9 Sparkle Stars armor, one of the 5 secret skills from 7 Stars Black Sect, could raise Jian Wushuang's overall abilities by 3 folds. Scram! A humongous sword essence swept violently in every direction as Jian Wushuang fiercely shouted. The 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods around him were at a standstill just moments ago. However, the trio was immediately thrown backward following his ability's drastic increment under the terrifying crisscrossing sword shadows. Jian Wushuang's figure moved in a flash and left the 3-way behind before dashing rapidly toward the void ahead. A 15 kilometers tall golden god shadow was formed behind him, which also had golden armor shrouding its body. Jian Wushuang's aura shot up to the heavens as he dashed toward the Scorpion King's direction. Although he attracted some people's attention, none cared too much as Jian Wushuang was only an Earth Ultimate God after all. Even if his battle strength was comparable to a Heaven Ultimate God's, he should not be able to affect the Scorpion King and those Grand Ultimate Gods' battle. All of them thought so except for Jian Wushuang himself. Jian Wushuang squinted at that moment and suddenly gave out a loud cry. "Lord Scorpion King, bombard the magic formation once more. I'll give my all to help you break it open this time." His loud cry resonated everywhere. The many Heaven Ultimate Gods who were fighting intensely on the battlefield and the official army soldiers could all hear it loud and clear. The Scorpion King, Gu Ji, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji, the 4 Grand Ultimate Gods who were fighting intensely, could naturally hear him and were all shocked. What did they just hear? An Earth Ultimate God dashing at them in such an epic fashion while announcing that he would help the Scorpion King to break open the magic formation? The Scorpion King had tried his hands on the magic formation, but could not break it open even upon performing his most powerful strike under the holy witch mantra magic pill's effect. What could an Earth Ultimate God come up with? Jian Yi. The Scorpion King gazed at Jian Wushuang with a frown. All the others looked in Jian Wushuang's direction with nothing but confusion in their eyes. However, Jian Wushuang had no time to clarify those people's doubts as he waved his hand while he dashed forward without explaining anything. A light beam then blended into the surrounding void. Heaven and earth suddenly started changing. An extremely beautiful scroll painting unfolded in midair above the infinite cosmos. The world within the painting looked so real with mountains, rivers, and even the 9 continents. It was so vivid. A grand, boundless ancient aura began to expand downward from the painting world. What's that? A treasure? Such a unique treasure, everything in the scroll painting looks so real. All those experts gazed at the painting world above and became momentarily lost in thought. However, Jian Wushuang sneered. 1,000 treasures grand world, transmigration world. Boom. The surrounding heaven and earth began to change. This place was originally above the mountains. Even though it was nighttime, immense sweeping divine powers were lighting up heaven and earth from below like lamps and bonfires. However, heaven and earth descended into infinite darkness in the blink of an eye and created boundless darkness without a single glimmer of light. Multiple reincarnation passages appeared in midair within the darkness. The reincarnation passages were scattered in various corners of the world as infinite samsara strength also ruthlessly expanded. It was a transmigration world filled with samsara strength. In that world, experts who study transmigration law could have their battle strength increased immensely. The Scorpion King was of course someone who had also studied the transmigration law. Chapter 2647. Escape. The boundless samsara strength filled every corner of that world. The Scorpion King was the first person who could sense it as he was also specialized in transmigration law. Such surge in samsara strength, this world is simply born of it. Scorpion King was completely stunned. My attack! The Scorpion King maneuvered the dark asteroid closest to him and directly lashed out at Li Qianji. Regardless of size or momentum, the dark asteroid was a level higher than before with an even faster speed. Li Qianji defended himself with all his might when it appeared before him. Hover. Bang. A loud noise. What? Li Qianji was shocked. He felt a surge of terrifying energy moving toward him. Although it could not kill him, it made his divine body tremble violently as a gulp of blood gushed out from his mouth. He humphed coldly before immediately jumping out. The energy of my strike is 50% higher than before. The Scorpion King was completely shocked and immediately felt ecstatic after that. On the other hand, the experts from Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower including Bai Tu and Gu Ji were incredibly stunned and angry. All of them had witnessed the Scorpion King being incapable of breaking down the magic formation around him by only relying on his abilities even after swallowing the Holy Witch Mantra magic pill. However, his abilities drastically and suddenly increased after the Dark Transmigration World appeared. The Transmigration World was unleashed by the Earth Ultimate God, Jian Wushuang. This kid, he's only an Earth Ultimate God territorial lord. How could he unleash such an incredible technique? World transformation. This technique is unearthly. Many experts gasped at its marvel. However, they did not know that the Transmigration World was just one of the Thousand Treasures Grand Worlds. Thousand Treasures Grand World, which meant to create the most suitable world for one to fight in accordance to one's strength, an absolute geographical advantage. Jian Wushuang specialized in space-time law, transmigration law, and sword principle. Therefore, creating the space-time, transmigration, and sword principle worlds using the Thousand Treasures Grand Worlds would greatly increase his abilities. However, such increments did not only help him but also everyone. Adapting to local conditions. Experts who studied transmigration law would all become a lot stronger in the transmigration world. Sword practitioners, on the other hand, would receive incredible upgrades in the sword world. It was as such. Jian Wushuang knew the moment the transmigration world was unleashed it would help increase the Scorpion King's overall abilities by 50%, hence he took action without hesitation. Lord Scorpion King, please do it right now. Jian Wushuang shouted. The Scorpion King snapped out of his shocked feeling upon hearing Jian Wushuang's words. His sturdy divine power aura began to immediately surge without any hesitation. He once again appeared at the gray magic formation's edge while maneuvering 3 asteroids. The asteroids were incredibly huge with powerful momentum. At that moment, boom boom, the 3 asteroids suddenly landed on the gray magic formation. It was the same move with the Scorpion King previously used with all his might. Although it had initially shaken the gray magic formation, it finally stopped the attack. However, the Scorpion King unleashed his move once again under the Transmigration World's influence, which drastically increased the 3 asteroids' momentum by 50%. It seemed to have gone beyond what the gray magic formation could endure after multiple consecutive bombardments. Bang! A huge rumble resonated as a gigantic hole was immediately formed on the gray magic formation at the spot where the 3 asteroids bombarded. No! Gu Ji, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji's expressions changed. The magic formation was a whole entity by itself as a huge amount of gray energy started dissipating at high speeds the moment one side was breached and caused the entire gray magic formation to collapse in the blink of an eye. The gray magic formation had disappeared. That sight made the surviving Crimson Stone Fort Heaven Ultimate Gods and the many official army soldiers happy beyond words. They were trapped within the gray magic formation and waiting to be slaughtered just moments ago. Run! Run! Split up and escape. The Heaven Ultimate Gods from Crimson Stone Fort and Northern Darkstar Territories' official army did not hesitate as they began to escape toward various directions in a split second. Threads of light suddenly started moving toward every direction. Those Heaven Ultimate Gods' great personal strength was shown when they escaped at full speed. The official army's capabilities were also expected. Although their escape tactics were nothing to shout about when compared with Heaven Ultimate Gods, their numbers were huge. Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower had only over 40 Heaven Ultimate Gods and simply could not afford to worry about the fleeing official army. The Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower's Heaven Ultimate Gods were embarrassed as they could only chase after the few Crimson Stone Fort's Heaven Ultimate Gods. However, it was not easy to catch them. On the other hand, the Scorpion King raised his head and laughed after the magic formation was broken. He then glided into the surrounding void at full speed just like everybody else. Scorpion King, don't even dream of escaping. Gu Jie's blue hair was floating in the air as an immense divine power aura swept out of her body as she squealed with her fierce face and blood-red eyes as though blood was about to stream out of them. Blue light threads then shot out like venomous snakes. The tough and incredibly fast blue light threads shrouded Scorpion King inside and blocked his escape within only a short moment. Bai Tu and Li Qianji quickly performed their hidden techniques by sacrificing quite a bit of energy to help Gu Ji block the Scorpion King's escape route. So what if you've broken open the magic formation? You and your interspatial ring are our real target. It's our gain so long we kill you and take the ring, shouted Gu Ji. Both Bai Tu and Li Qianji understood that logic as well, hence they did their best to stop the Scorpion King. The Scorpion King used the 9 asteroids to attack fiercely time and again, completely unleashing his strongest battle strength. However, he only managed to break out of their restriction. The Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pills effect is about to be over. Scorpion King's eyes turned frosty. Its side effects would kick in immediately as soon as the pills effect was over. His abilities would decrease sharply, making it impossible to run away from those 3 grand ultimate gods at that time. Jian Yi. The Scorpion King growled decisively before waving his hand and lashing out a black thread of light at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang subconsciously grabbed it only to find a black color interspatial ring the moment he opened his palm. Jian Wushuang shuddered as his mind raced and realized what was happening. Chapter 2648, Furious. This is... Jian Wushuang looked into the interspatial ring in his hand and saw a large number of blood gems piled up like a mountain. The naked eye rough estimation amounted to around a few billion caddies. There was no doubt the interspatial ring was used to store those blood gems. The 3,700,000,000 caddies of blood gems from the mineral vein, which amount to the wealth of 37 billion primordial stones, were all in this interspatial ring. Jian Yi, give it to the fort master. The Scorpion King roared while relying on his last bit of the medicinal effect to try his best and stop those 3 grand ultimate gods, Gu Ji, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji. Those 3 grand ultimate gods realized what the Scorpion King had given to Jian Wushuang. Quick, stop him. Kill that kid and take back the interspatial ring in his hand. Hurry up. Those 3 grand ultimate gods screamed as they were being held down by the Scorpion King and could not free their hands. But the Heaven Ultimate Gods from Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon Sect had the freedom to attack. More than a dozen Heaven Ultimate Gods in the void near Jian Wushuang gave up on chasing and killing the Crimson Stone Fort group before going straight at Jian Wushuang instead after hearing the 3 struggling Grand Ultimate Gods' command. Jian Wushuang had a determined look on his face. He cast a deep look at Scorpion King after making a decision. Run! Jian Wushuang was moving at his top speed as he tried his best to skim forward. However, the Heaven Ultimate Gods from Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon Sect were right behind him. Jian Wushuang had to do something. Boom! A majestic gush of divine power like a volcano that had been dormant for hundreds of millions of years erupted from Jian Wushuang. It was just way too much. The divine power discharged by Jian Wushuang was beyond what many Heaven Ultimate Gods could have imagined. A pure divine power eruption. He had used this trick when he first encountered the Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor in the Dark Thunder territory. Their gap was astonishingly huge as he was only a second-class divine demon at that time while the Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor was a peak divine demon. However, Jian Wushuang had only used around 30% of his divine power, which was sufficiently terrifying to forcibly block Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor away for a long time before managing a complete retreat. The divine power he possessed was countless times greater than before after reaching Earth Ultimate God Realm. He was also discharged more than 30% of his divine power. It was 50%. How much exactly was 50% of the vast and incredible amount of divine power? A divine power ocean. A huge and boundless divine power ocean instantly formed. There seemed to be no end to the divine power ocean. Divine power tidal waves at a few hundred feet to even a few thousand feet high frantically swept around. The Heaven Ultimate Gods who came from every direction to attack Jian Wushuang were instantly crushed and drowned by the divine power ocean. How's this possible? How can his divine power be so much? Unbelievable! What a spectacular divine power! Those Heaven Ultimate Gods were shocked by the pure divine power's impact. Although the power driven by that divine power was not too intense and it did not pose much threat to them, they still had to resist with all their strength and were busy dispersing it without any time to worry about Jian Wushuang. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang concurrently produced a few hundred apparitions at the same time before displaying his scary full speed. In just a matter of seconds, he had shuttled out of those heaven-earth ultimate gods' besiege and left the battlefield. Scorpion King, farewell. Jian Wushuang left a message as he quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. The divine power ocean slowly faded away after he left. The world was returned to its original state as the transmigration world that spread throughout the battlefield had also disappeared. Garbage. A bunch of garbage. The three grand ultimate gods, Gu Ji, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji, were furious. On the other hand, the Scorpion King was grinning as he saw what Jian Wushuang had done. His cultivation speed is extremely fast as he had made a breakthrough from primary level Ultimate God Realm to peak Earth Ultimate God Realm in just 20 years. His combat power is also strong enough to allow him to simultaneously contend against three grand ultimate gods without being defeated. The techniques he has used, Transmigration World and the surging divine power he instantly discharged were shocking. He's extremely talented and powerful with great techniques with unfathomable potentials. No wonder the old master appreciated him, huh? Hell definitely helped the fort master to resolve this deadlock and I won't have any regrets even if I die. The Scorpion King smiled with shining bright eyes. The medicinal effect in his body had completely dissipated and replaced by a serious side effect. His divine power began to quickly fade away as well. Scorpion King, go to hell. The three grand ultimate gods, Gu Ji, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji, did not show the Scorpion King any mercy and killed the weakened Scorpion King who was incapable to resist without hesitation. The battlefield gradually calmed down after the Scorpion King died. Crimson Stone Fort had sent more than a dozen heaven ultimate gods. 8 of them had died and left their bodies behind with only a few managed to escape. Some of the official army soldiers had also died during the battle, but most of them managed to escape, with the main reason being the official army had a very large number despite being relatively weak. Those heaven ultimate gods from Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect did not bother to chase after them when they scattered and fled. What they cared about most was Jian Wushuang. He had escaped under their noses. He escaped from 3 grand ultimate gods and more than a dozen heaven ultimate gods. Not only did he escape, but had also taken away the interspatial rings storing the blood gems. The Life and Death Tower and Divine Demons sect were originally here for the interspatial ring. Although they killed the Scorpion King, they did not get the interspatial ring. Damn it! Damn it! Gu Ji, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji stood side by side with extremely gloomy expressions. We had a seamless plan. I thought the Scorpion King would die with none of the Crimson Stone Fort's people able to escape. I also thought we'd definitely get the interspatial ring, but a petty Earth ultimate god actually disrupted our plan. Gu Ji held her hands tightly.